sewing, making lovely things. Come on and join us. It's almost time for Thread Life with Belle. Yeah, I said the live show is starting soon, so keep your YouTubes tuned to Thread Life with Belle, with Belle, with Belle. On YouTube starting very soon, so stay tuned. Belle is getting ready for you. Quilting, teaching, sewing, making lovely things. Come on and join us. It's almost time for Thread Life with Belle. Yeah, I said the live show is starting soon, so keep your YouTubes tuned to Thread Life with Belle. Thread Life, Thread Life, Thread Life, Thread Life, Thread Life, Thread Life with Belle, starting soon.
Happy Saturday, quilty friends. Welcome to Thread Life with Belle. You are here in my studio with me, and today is part 2 of making a tote bag with French seams. So on Thursday was part 1 and a continuation of part 1 because we were in the middle of a storm. And during the middle of the storm, it dropped the live stream and everything. So we picked back up immediately and finished out part 1. And that was basically cutting our fabrics, kind of getting them all ready for the tote. And today we are actually going to be quilting the front and back of the tote, but it's all one panel, and I'm going to be using my Baby Lock Sashiko. So when I visited with some of you on Thursday, I was like, you want me just to go ahead and quilt that, and then we'll come back together for part 2 to assemble the bag? And enough people said, no, I want to watch you use the Baby Lock Sashiko. So we've got the camera set up over there. We've got the camera back here at the Juki for the assembling of the bag. So everything's ready, so you guys are going to get to see how this works. Now, what I'm going to be doing, I'm actually using a new thread. So I became an artisan, an Aurifil artisan for 2025-2026, and they sent me this fun box of all of their threads, different weights. And I am using their 28 weight cotton thread in my Baby Lock Sashiko. And the Sashiko loves like 30 weight and 40 weight thread. And I tested it out a little bit earlier today, just as far as making sure it worked, and so far so good. So I've got the tote top ready to go over to the machine, and we will actually be doing just some stitching, just some patchwork stitching, so parallel and horizontal lines today, and then we'll be able to assemble the tote bag. Now I think we can get the tote assembled today as well. I can run this live stream for up to 3 hours and 15 minutes before everything like runs out of battery. So we'll try to get that done today. If I see that we're not, we'll have to pick up on a part 3 to finish the tote. That's the plan. Hello, Shelly. Shelly's one of my thread masters. This is her 2nd month anniversary. Hello, Shelly. Welcome. Brenda, hello. I'm glad you're here. It's nice to see some good faces with me today. For those of you that are here, whether it's the first time or, you know, the 10th time, drop your name and let me know where you're listening from. I'm glad you're here if you're a new person to Thread Life with Belle. A little bit about what I do. I come on here and sometimes we work on UFOs together. Sometimes I kind of teach you a technique or just let you see what I'm doing in my studio. It's like a combination of things, and I'm on anywhere from 1 to 3 times a week. So if you want, I'd love for you to hit the subscribe button, and you can hit the little bell for notifications of when I'm going to go live, so you'll be able to kind of plan accordingly. And feel free to like and share. I would love it as I'm building my channel. You might be wondering, what is a Threadmaster when I shouted out to Shelly? So Threadmaster is for those that want to have little extra special perks. You can pay $4.99 a month. It's totally voluntary if you want to support the channel. But you'll get a special access to private videos, private tutorials, access to seeing my fabric collection before anyone else, things like that. So there's little special perks. We also have a private community as well here on YouTube, where we can basically interact with one another offline even whenever we're not here. So that's really fun. So anyway, you can check it out and see if that's for you. If not, I'm happy you're here just as a regular subscriber. All right, no bad weather. We got the sun out today, y'all, so I don't think we're gonna have any technical difficulties. We'll see, but I don't think we are. I think we're gonna have a good day. I wanna start out by telling y'all, my day started a little bit crazy today. I gotta tell you a quick story. So as you know, we have 2 Airbnbs that my dad, my husband, and myself all run. And one of the B&Bs is also the Quilting retreat center. It's pretty large. It's got a whole studio attached to it that we close off. It's locked down to where Airbnbers can't get to that when they rent it for that. So we use it for a lot of different reasons. And we actually have both houses are booked like all month long, booked all month long, and we've got people there right now. So I got a phone call a few hours before the show started, and they said that the plumbing was backed up. Well, so we got the plumber out there, and he used one of those snakes, you know, that they like drill down and figure out what it is. Do you know what he pulled out of the plumbing? Now keep in mind, we have signs. This house was the older house. The retreat center home is brand new. It was just built, you know, a few years ago. The older home on the river, it's rustic. It was built in 1967. My grandfather built it. It's on the river, and the plumbing is older, right? It's got a septic tank, and so I have the little signs that say, you know, don't flush sanitary products and, you know, those types of things down the toilet and all of that. And so, yeah, he gets down there, gets a snake. Someone flushed a washcloth. Who flushes washcloths down toilets? The only thing we can imagine is it was the last guest that had younger kids. And yeah, so Dad sends me this photo because the plumber's out there. I'm getting ready for the show. And it's the black makeup washcloth that they flushed down the toilet, along with a large sanitary product as well. That was what was stopping it up. So anyway, Quilt Husband and I are going to have to like write a few more I don't know, direct language with a framed sign that gets a little bit more direct with people, I think, on that. I've been in shock all day. It's like, who flushes a wash rag down the toilet? It had to have been a kid. That's the only thing I can think of. So yeah, the last thing we had happen was people stealing 3 rolls of toilet paper. So if you have a B&B and you have crazy stories, you understand what I'm saying, but that was how my day started out today. So I'm happy to be with all of you here on Thread Life with Belle so we can do some fun sewing together. All right. Okay, I'm going to turn on the overhead here. And I have, this is basically the front and the back. So it's all one panel. So if you imagine this is divided in half, this will be the front of the tote. This will be the back of the tote here. And we're going to be ultimately constructing this after I quilt it using French seams. And if you weren't here on Wednesday, this is my favorite way of making a tote. This is the inside of a tote bag, so I've opened it up for you. And with the French seams here, you basically have everything. I'm going to turn this light down so you guys can see it better for a sec. There we go. You can see here what happens. This is a French seam, so you don't have all those raw seams there, but also we don't have to do the whole turning the lining right side out, stuffing the lining into the outer part, leaving the hole in the bottom, pulling it through, closing up. We don't have to do all that. This is a really easy way to make it. It is a little thicker to sew through, so you may want to use your walking foot if you don't have like a higher end machine. But this is the inside of the bag, and this is the outside of the bag. And of course you can see, you know, you've got your nice clean seams there. And so that's what we're actually going to be doing. It's my favorite way to make a tote. And we did the part 1 of kind of cutting all our fabrics and me kind of explaining the process. And now it's time to quilt this one here. So I've got all of the lines drawn, and I'm actually doing 2 inches apart. So I've got lines drawn, and I use, this is my, y'all know I love Roxanne glue based it spray. I like Roxanne glue. I use it for basting, and they also have a really great like chalk pencil. And so it just kind of wipes off. You can use a little water and wipe it off, or just kind of do this and it's out of the way. But I have just done 2 inches apart. So I've drawn a grid on here. So I've got lines going parallel and horizontal. So that's what I'm going to actually be quilting on the Sashiko today. Now I will show you what I did do with the Aurifil thread. So I'm using 3 different types of thread for this project. It's actually part of a challenge to use the threads that they sent us, and fortunately there was some green and yellow. So I'll zoom in for you and you can see, hopefully, this is 12 weight thread. I went ahead and just with my semi-industrial Juki did 12 weight thread and stitched all the way around my Friendship Blooms flower. This is from a template that I have for my Friendship Blooms pattern. And let me turn the light back on and see if that helps a little bit. So I have gone ahead and stitched this down. This is stitched down. The rest of it I'm going to actually do, I'm going to use the Sashiko to do those stitching on that as well. All right. Okay. And I'm going to be starting when I do this. I'm actually think I'm probably going to start going down this direction first. And we're going to use yellow thread. I'm going to use kind of bright yellow thread so it pops. This tote is actually for, I'm having surgery next week, this coming up week, and my nurse is just a wonderful nurse. She like texts me, I can immediately text with her when I have questions. She's just been wonderful through kind of the whole hysterectomy situation. So this is going to be a tote for her. She loves green, so that's what I'm working on. All right, friends, well, I'm going to switch on over to the Sashiko. And we're going to head on over here and get started, and you guys get to hang out with me today, and we're going to do some Sashiko quilting. Now, Quilt Husband, if there's any questions that come up, he's going to feed those to me because I don't have my laptop over here. My laptop is actually over at the Juki station. So with the Sashiko, some of you may have watched me use this before, and this summer, I'm going to have a little bit of time before my fabric collection arrives and I have to start making samples for Quilt Market. I'm going to probably do start doing a series on the Baby Lock Sashiko, all the way from like the machine itself to the threading to basically how everything happens down here. With the Sashiko, there's literally, you don't thread the needle. You don't thread it through here. Actually, what happens is everything happens down here. And when you put your needle down, the bobbin thread will come up and thread itself through the needle. It's very fascinating. The only thing you do with the top of this machine is you wind your bobbin at the top of the machine, and then everything happens down here in this area. So it is all set up. I'm going to be using the Aurifil 28 weight cotton thread, and it's in the gray spools, and I've got that all ready to go. And I'm going to use the longest stitch length and stitch spacing, so that's a 5. This machine will go anywhere from a 2 millimeter to half increments all the way to 5, and that's the stitch that is the longest and the most space between stitches. So that's actually what I'm going to be using today. I am going to start over here on this far side, and I'm going to work my way this direction. And we're going to go down first, and then I'm going to come across. So the way this works is you just lower your presser foot. There's a button on the machine here I just press for the needle to go down. And then it's going to pull up. You guys are going to get to see what happens. There's a hook here that you can see. The needle's down, and it's going to pull up with this special needle. There's like a little hook on the needle. It pulls up the thread, wraps it around this hook here, and what happens is it pulls up 2 loops of thread at a time. So it's a doubled up piece of thread. That's why this looks like you've done maybe handwork and hand stitched, because it pulls up 2 pieces at once to make it look a lot thicker. So you'll get to see all of that happen here. A lot of people ask me, can I buy this foot to go on my machine to do this? No, you cannot. This machine specifically is made to replicate a hand stitch. And when we're done, I'll show you the back, because everybody always wonders, what does the back look like? The back looks like a normal stitch that you would stitch on your machine, but the front looks like a hand stitch that you've done. And it saves a lot of time. I sold some jewelry to buy this machine and pay cash for it back in 2021, and I absolutely love it. You definitely want to rationalize that you're going to use it. And there are there are a few videos out there on how to use it. Baby Lock has some when you buy it that you get access to be able to learn how to use the machine. It's really not hard. You just have to kind of follow the rules. You can't go like overly fast and be kind of rough with the machine. But it also depends on the thread you use. It likes some thread, and sometimes it doesn't like certain threads. So you have to kind of try that out. So I'm going to be using the Aurifil thread in here for the first time. I've never used it before, but at least from the test run that I did, it looked like it was working great. So I'm going to show you the sample that I did just when I threaded the machine and did a few stitches here. This is just a quilt sandwich, and this is navy, so that you could see the stitches really well. And so this is the spacing of the stitch length and the spacing of a 5mm. So that is the widest you can go with your stitch and the widest with the space in between. Isn't that really pretty? I really love it. And then let me show you how the back. You're wondering, well, what does the back look like? It looks like a regular stitch. Just a regular stitch. And there's not, the bobbin does everything. The bobbin does the bottom and the top. So you put in one color thread and that's it. It's the top and the bobbin. You don't have to have a separate bobbin thread because everything happens from the bobbin area. So a lot of people are really curious about the machine. Pardon? 28 weight, Aurifil, 28 weight. And there's a link in the description box that takes you to the Aurifil website that you actually can purchase this thread. So it's there in the description for you guys that you can actually purchase directly from Aurifil if you want to try out the thread. But it's really nice. You can even use this in your regular domestic machine. If you want a thicker look, it's great for binding. I like this weight thread. Most other thread companies call it 30 weight. Theirs is called 28 weight, but it's comparable, and it's just lovely. I just love the look of it. So I know a lot of quilters have bought this machine and they just keep it in their closet. They feel like, you know, it's scary to use, and I just want to encourage you to get it out and use it. And like I said, I plan on, I think, doing some tutorials on the machine itself so people can feel more confident about it. But anyway, that's what that looks like. Now, one thing to know is this does not have a back stitch. This machine doesn't. So the very last stitch that it does, it locks the last stitch. But you still do have to bury your threads. Now, I don't really have to bury them because I'm doing a tote. And with the tote, I don't have backing on the back of what I'm going to be quilting today because there's going to be lining. But this is actually a quilt sandwich. So if you thought of this as your quilt top, your batting, and your backing, if you go edge to edge from one edge of the quilt to the other, then you don't have to worry about it because this gets trimmed off when you square up your quilt, and then your binding, of course, is going to go along the edge. But if you are doing a lot of stopping and starting or even changing the color of your thread, these would need to be buried. So there's a tail here, and what happens is you can just tie a knot in your thread, and then you'll put this through a needle and then pop it through like you would when you bury your thread. So that is something that is a little different about this machine. There's not a back stitch. And so if you're actually quilting a quilt, you're going to want to think about if you have a lot of stops and starts and you're cutting your thread a lot, you're going to have to bury those threads there. All right. I don't have to worry about that with what I'm doing today because we're going to have lining that's going to cover that up. All right. Any questions anybody has? Okay, well, let's get started. And I'm going to start quilting this tote. And let's see, like I said, not used this thread before. So we're going to see if the Baby Lock loves it. You definitely don't want to use old thread. And if you use too thin of thread, it will break. So really the best thread for it is the 28 weight, or some companies call it 30, but this is the Aurifil 28, or you can also use 40 weight. But I don't use any thinner, which would be your 50, your 60, your 80, just because there's a lot that happens with this hook that's pulling up this thread. And you can see it's putting a bit more tension because that hook is pulling that up from the bottom, and it can break easier, even though it's doubled up. So you definitely want to use the thicker. I almost always use this weight thread. So, like I said, this is Aurifil 28 weight, and I normally use what's comparable is usually called 30 weight with some of the other brands. So yeah, this is working good so far, no breaks. And this is about the pace I go whenever I'm using this machine. It'll go faster, but I just kind of take my time trying to follow my lines here. This built-in sewing cabinet that I had made doesn't open off the back. It's actually built right up into the wall. So I have to kind of pause because it doesn't drape down over the back of the table. I kind of have to scrunch it up. I was trying to use all the real estate I could here for this little area for this machine. I used to, before I had this studio, would have it put up, and then I'd have to get it out, put it in the extension table, and I just found that I use it much more now that it's out in the open. So this is it. For those of you just joining Thread Life with Belle, I am using my Baby Lock Sashiko to quilt this tote. This is going to be turned into a tote using French seams, or creating French seams. And it's kind of a different way to make a tote where we don't have to turn things inside out, right side out, and all of that kind of stuff. I really, this is my go-to. I don't make totes any other way anymore. And then when we get to the end here, we can just either do one of two things. I could stop and cut the thread, or I can turn this, sew a few stitches, and come on down this side. So I think that's what I'm going to do. Just going to sew on down, so that way I'm not going to cut my thread. And yeah, I guess it might be wasting just a little bit of thread. And then I'm going to pivot. And then I'll come on down this way. And you can see the white lines there really are very faint. I don't know if you all can even really see them very well, but they, you know, if you touch this a lot, they're going to kind of go away. This fabric that I'm using, this is some really pretty, you guys probably cannot appreciate what I'm seeing. This is the cotton sateen fabric from Benartex. There's a limited amount of colors, and it's got a satin shine to it. It's so pretty. I really want to make like a skirt or something out of it, because it's like satin, but it's cotton. Pardon? Yeah, you can see the shine. Quilt Husband said he can see the shine. So good. I'm glad that lighting is showing up. So anyway, you can look on the Benartex website to see the colors. Now, you can't buy directly from Benartex, but you probably could see one. You could ask your local quilt shop if they would carry it, because when the Benartex rep comes, that's something that, you know, often they'll carry if enough people ask. But if you can't find it at your local quilt shop, sometimes you can get, I have found success when I can't find things at a quilt shop, on Etsy. You could just Google Benartex sateen cotton, and I think there may be like 8 colors. I have, I think, 6 of the colors. I don't have red. I don't really use red much in quilts. I think there might be a black too, but I've got the navy, this beautiful Kelly green. I have the golds. I have the off-whites, and I have like an ivory. And so that's actually what I'm using for this project here. So I'm just going to keep on quilting. And I just kind of adjust the fabric back here. Just kind of keep it smooth and down. And I'm just holding, you can't see my hands, but I'm actually just holding the edge of this up, the bottom and the sides. I'm just holding it up, and I'm letting the feed dogs pull it through. So I'm not pushing it, I'm not pulling it, but I don't have drag, because I'm actually kind of lifting. I'm just keeping my hands but back further, keeping it kind of lifted up so it goes through evenly. And I couldn't decide if I just wanted straight lines or if I wanted just to kind of do patchwork. So we're gonna see how this looks after I do all the lines straight down the tote. And I'll decide if I also wanna come back across it or not, we'll see. It may be a little too much if I do too much quilting with this thread. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and lift the needle up, and I'm going to, and the way you cut it is it fits in this little slit right here. There's like a little slit right here that actually cuts your thread, and then it kind of stores it there in place till you're ready to do it again. All right, I'm gonna turn this. Just gonna come on back and get that in place again. Isn't that nice? Can y'all see that shine? It's making some really nice even stitches. And you can't see, I mean, this is batting back here, but you can see it looks like a normal stitch. So I can tell you, my machine loves this thread. It's not broken, it's sturdy. It's really nice. So I definitely will be using this. I used to use Coats & Clark, believe it or not, from Walmart. The machine liked that. It did not break as often. And I used their 30 weight quilting thread, was what I used. But now this is my new favorite. I honestly didn't realize that Orifil had 28 weights. So I'm really excited to try a lot of their threads out. I always just, if I've used theirs, I use the 50 weight, which has been wonderful. But it's nice to try this out with this machine. Okay, we have a couple options right here. When you're gonna be using this machine and you don't want to quilt over like your applique here, like I don't think I want to quilt over this. I think I want to just jump over it. You have a couple of options. I could stop here and I could cut my thread, and then I would just kind of tie a knot and be done with it. Or I actually can lift up the needle and scoot this whole thing forward where there's just a piece of thread that stays connected on the back and pick up where I left off. I really have two options, and I don't love just having to cut and tie my thread and bury it and all that stuff. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do one more stitch, and I'm gonna lift the presser foot up, and I'm actually just gonna gently tug. So it's actually pulling the thread. There's thread that's being pulled underneath here. Now you would not do this if you were quilting a quilt with backing on it, because you would have a long string about this big on the back with no stitches. And I'll show you this when we're done what it looks like. So that's actually what I'm gonna do. Completely up to you, you know, how you do that, but I don't wanna cut the thread. So I'm just gonna do it this way and pick up where I left off. And that way I don't have to like have two pieces of thread to tie off, especially because there's batting here. You're not going to see any of the back of this quilting because there's going to be lining in this bag. So like I said, this works when you're doing totes and you're not actually doing the 3 layers. And I just kind of smooth that out as I go. You also can use foam. Like if you want to use the Pellon foam, if you make a lot of bags, you can use that as well. I just used some leftover batting that I had. And that's usually what I use for my totes, is just leftover batting. Isn't that fascinating how that hook works? It just pulls it up, doubles it up. You see how it pulls a loop up? And then the needle pushes that loop down, doubled. The story behind the Baby Lock Sashiko, from what I researched, is it was made in Japan, I believe, and the man that designed it and invented it did it for his wife. I believe that I think it was her hands. It got to be where it was too much for her to hand quilt, and it was too hard, but she still wanted that look, and he invented this machine for her. There was something called the Baby Lock Sashiko 1 that was the first rendition of it. This is the Baby Lock Sashiko 2. My understanding from being in a few Facebook groups, there is a Baby Lock Sashiko Facebook group, is that the first Sashiko 1 had some problems with the bobbin area. And so they, you know, kind of, I guess, redesigned some things, and this is the 2. So if you ever buy a used one, my suggestion is make sure that you've got the 2. And if you buy it used, because you can, whoops, I just broke the thread. So now you guys are going to get to see how that works. I actually turned that corner too fast and I got it caught up on the batting. So you'll get to see actually the whole process for what this looks like with threading it from the bobbin. So you'll get to see that. But I want to show you the back of this really quick, where I pulled it over. Okay, you remember where I told you that I didn't want to cut the thread? So here's where that is, right here. So I stopped here, and then there's just this thread, and then it picks up stitching again. Now, I only do that when this is not the back of a quilt that's going to be seen, okay? And that's pure laziness of not wanting to cut this, tie it off, and bury it. Not wanting to cut this, tie it off, and bury it. But you do what works for you if you have this machine or get the machine. But those stitches are looking really nice, aren't they? I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to come across the other side. I may just do the 1 lines down. We'll see. Okay, let me show you what's involved when your thread happens to break. And sometimes when you pivot, that can happen from time to time. So the first thing you do is there's a button at the top of the machine up here, and you hold it down. When you do, a little green light will come on, and an orange light will blink to say it's safe to open up the door. And so we just pull this out here. This is the whole bobbin area. Everything happens down here. And when you clean it, these little, what do you want to call them? They're not really levers, but latches. They come off, and then you can pull this whole thing out to clean it if you want. But this is what the bobbin looks like. This is, there's 2 little holes here. It's like bunny ears. I call these the bunny ears. And then you've also got the mohawk here. This is the mohawk. And you don't ever want to cut this off or put oil on it or anything. That's actually part of how this thing functions. So, whoops, let me move that there so you can see it. That's the mohawk right there. Isn't that interesting? And it actually can be replaced. There's 2 little screws. If something happened, you ever, I don't know, had some oil, some accident or something, because you only oil, put like a drop down here where these little bunny ears go. Every so often you'll put a drop down there. And if your machine gets to clanking, you know it's time to oil it. You don't want that to happen, but that's what that looks like. And so what'll happen is whenever you break your thread, you have to pull this out and put it back in the bobbin. One, usually because you've frayed the edge there. So you see, let's see if we can get the thread here. That's usually a little bit frayed right there. So you have to kind of trim that off. I call it starting over. And then to put it in there, you're going to put it in like this. So here's your thread. And it just pops right in there. And then there's a little groove right here. It goes under the groove. And there's like a little hook right in there, kind of goes around that. And then you come to the front and you thread it through both of the bunny ears. It's got to go through both of them and pull it through like that. And then you want to pull out to have about a 10-inch tail. And then you're going to pop it back in. And the bunny ears have to line up. There's a groove, that little groove down there at the bottom. And once it's in there, you'll hear it click. It clicked. And then you know you've got it in correctly. So then you hold the thread out like this with this hand. You get the hand wheel and turn it towards you until it goes all the way around. This is going to come out. This little hook here is going to come out, this latch hook. And every so often this has to be replaced. I have never had to replace mine yet, but they do give you an extra one. You keep turning it until it pulls the thread up. So you saw the needle, just pulled that thread up and doubled it. Just take your snips and get that thread up to the top. So now the thread is up at the top rather than down in the bottom. Then you do another full couple of turns towards you. The needle's going to go back down, and that latch hook is going to catch the thread. Do you see that now? The latch hook just caught the thread right here like that. And then you shut the door and put your thread in that little holder there. This is also the thread cutter, and it just goes right there like that. And that's where you kind of hold it. This keeps it kind of tight, so when you start quilting, the thread doesn't usually get sucked in like that. All right, everybody following along? Any questions or anything? Nope. All right. All right, so let's get this, whoops, back underneath here. We'll do some more quilting. So then we just drop down the presser foot. When I do that, there's a little light that turns blue on the machine to say, yep, good to go. Your needle's up. Do you want it down? So I'm going to press the button again. And now the light is green, and that's telling me the needle is down. And I usually like to start out with the needle down because of pivoting. So I always start with my green light on. And there we go. We're back in action again. And like I said, I'm just holding the sides of this top up. Now, this is a long way to drag the string, so I'm actually not going to do that. I'm actually going to stop right there because I'm not going to drag that string that far. So I kind of like grab underneath, just gently pull it. So I'm gently pulling the thread. I'm going to cut it with the thread cutter right there. And now I have a tail back here. There's a tail. That's going to have to be, I'm going to have to tie a knot in it and bury that. But that was kind of a long way to drag that, so I really didn't want to do that. And then I'll just pick up where I left off.
Shelly says thank you for all the info.
Oh, yeah, Shelly, I think you were considering getting one, aren't you? Yeah, you know, honestly, I think that, you know, if you have a dealer, a baby lock dealer, it would be good to go in there and play around on one and, you know, get the feel for it. Because it is a very different kind of machine. And some people go a lot faster. I tend to kind of stay at pretty much this pace. Especially if you're doing something like more intricate than straight lines. If you were doing a lot more of the Sashiko patterns where there's a lot of circles or pivoting and turning quite a bit, or going, you know, in circles. I do that sometimes. I'll actually quilt around maybe an applique shape or a lot of different directions in a block. This is a great machine to do quilt as you go when you do the quilt as you go method where you put the backing on later and you're just quilting through the top and the batting. I've done it that way as well. It would be fun for, I think, rag quilts to do a little extra within those blocks. Because your backing is already on and you've got those seams between the blocks are, you know, the rag, you know, kind of that ragged look. I've made a rag quilt before, but I've actually not used the Sashiko for a little extra on there. So you might be wondering, how much is this machine? Well, it can vary. So I think that when it's not on sale at all, it's like $3,000. And I did not pay that for mine. A lot of people tend to pay around, on average, around $2,000 to $2,200. I paid $1,600. My dealer, when I was in Missouri, did a price match for me. So I was able to get them to come down a little bit on the price. So it is one of those machines that you really have to you have to use it, you know, to get your money's worth out of it. and make sure. What I did before I got the machine was I got on YouTube, and there's a lady, her name is Evie Hawkins, and she has the most tutorials on the machine. Now, she doesn't typically use hers for quilting. She uses a lot of hers for like embellishments and applique and things like that, but she has some really good videos on, like, if you're having a little trouble with the machine, or how to thread it and how to take care of it. And she has such a gentle spirit. She's very easy to listen to. Some of the stuff I plan on doing is actually more along the quilting lines, of showing you more about what you can do with the quilting. But she's a really great one to take a peek at. Shelly, if you're really thinking about getting this soon, I do have a few videos about this machine, older videos on my channel. They're actually not lives, they're just recorded ones. And of actually quilting an entire quilt with it, edge to edge. It was a smaller lap size, and I did a lot of little embellishments on the quilt. Evie, E-V-E, or E-V-E, I think, Hawkins. It's a Bit of Stitch. A Bit of Stitch is her YouTube channel, I believe. She's just a lovely person. And she makes the cutest, like little things for babies and little girls and her, I think probably her grandbabies. She does a lot of embroidery, And she uses her machine for like embellishments mainly. Sometimes, and you may want to join, so you could go in and type Baby Lock Sashiko and look under groups in Facebook, and there is a group where you can learn a lot and see what people are doing. And sometimes you'll hear people say they didn't like their machine. And you know, I'm not one to judge those reasons why. Some people said theirs were still in their box. They never got it out because they were just like afraid of it. So sometimes you can get them used from that group cheaper. You're just gonna wanna be careful with that if it's not from a dealer, because if for some reason the machine is broken, they've broken it or something like that, you know, I don't know how that would work with you, like getting your money back. If they live close enough to you, you actually could just take a quilt sandwich and test it out, you know, to make sure that it works. I can say I spent, before I bought mine, I was actually doing a quilt along, and the prize was one of these machines, and I was hoping to win it, but I had a feeling I probably wouldn't because there were hundreds of people in this quilt along. So I started researching about the machine and learning, like I found like the manual, read it, every possible video Baby Lock had, the one Evie Hawkins had, just to learn about the machine so that before I got it, I kind of understood how it worked. If you're gonna get one, I highly suggest, one, you go try it out at a dealer, which is what I did. You watch all the tutorials that you can on it so that you're not frightened when you get it home and you're like, this machine looks so weird. What? Like, how do you do it? And then you're in kind of a frozen state of being paralyzed that, you know, you're not sure what you're doing or how it's gonna work. So those would be tips from Belle if you decide to get this machine. What else can I tell you? It can be picky about thread. So if you're finding that your thread breaks, some people in the group will talk about their thread breaking a lot. So I've found you just have to kind of test out the thread. And the old thread, you don't want to use old vintage thread that you've had for a long time. You don't want to use thin thread. You definitely want to use thicker thread. I've tried polyester in it, and poly does work, but there are some poly threads that it just doesn't like. So just try several out. Don't get, you know, discouraged. But I can tell you, this Aurifil thread, I mean, it's good quality. We've had one break, and that was just because when I pivoted, I got it kind of caught up underneath there, and it pulled it and broke it. But there's been other times I've used a thread. Like, I actually have one in here that is a Coats & Clark, and for whatever reason, it doesn't like that particular color. It's not the color that's the problem, but maybe it just wasn't made well, I don't know. And I could sew like one row and then it would break, and then half a row and it would break. So I just was like, well, that's not gonna be the thread that I use anymore. So I'm super thrilled that it loves the 28 Aurifil thread, because they're gonna be, I've ordered some more colors from them. But this one and a really pretty teal was what was included in my welcome box. So our challenge for the month of June is to make something with some of the threads. So for this tote, I'm actually using 3 different ones. The 80 weight for piecing, the 12 weight that I did on the little flowers here, this is the 12 weight right here that you see. And then the 28 weight is what I'm using right now. Looks like we've got 2 more lines. And you know, I actually, y'all, I don't know, I'm tempted to just go with the one row here. I'll let y'all look at it and see what you think. See if we need to add more. And then I'm,
Attorney Homestead has Jennifer, right?
pardon?
Jennifer, prep for attorney Homestead?
I believe that's Jennifer. Yeah, Jennifer, is that you?
Yeah, she's here.
Yay, welcome. Did you just join us? We are quilting the tote we started Thursday with my baby lock Sashiko, and I've been talking all about the machine. So if you're joining late, these videos are recorded and they post to my live stream section of my YouTube channel. I think Quilt Husband and I just figured out it takes like, is it 48 hours for it to process? Okay, it's 24 hours for it to process. So what happens is sometimes you might be able to see the video, but you actually can't see the chat. And that's because it takes a little time to process. So you'll be able to see all the links and all the chat and everything about 24 hours after the show's over. And the system just automatically does that. And I think we have it turned off where no ads run during the shows. So y'all, we figured out, we turned it off where no ads are supposed to run during my lives. They only start running like for the recordings after it's over. So that way you don't miss out on anything and it's not annoying. So this is the speed. Jill, so are there any questions? Like, is there anything that I haven't really touched on that just burning a hole in your heart wondering about? You know what this reminds me of? Did y'all ever watch Bob Ross? It's kind of relaxing to just like the methodical, the noise, just the up, down, the hum, and the up and down is kind of like watching Bob Ross. It's fascinating what people's brains can come up with, that someone came up with how to engineer this machine and create this. It's funny. So sometimes when I post reels of me using this machine, I've had some quilt police say, that's cheating. This doesn't count. It's not real quilting. It's cheating. And, you know, people sometimes can be a little ornery. I think the reason people do that sometimes might be just because they might be a little jealous they don't have the machine. People are funny. They are funny. But regardless of whether you think it's cheating or not, it saves so much time, and I just don't have time to sit and do a lot of hand quilting. I do EPP when I'm traveling, and I am actually hand quilting one quilt. It's on a hoop right now. I have no idea how long it's going to take me. I really don't have, I decided I wasn't going to put an end date on it just when it gets done, but I have the goal of hand quilting at least one quilt in my life so that I can say that I've done it and experience all of that. And I'm actually using 8-weight thread. It's pearl cotton. Okay, we got one more here. And you know, we're gonna be, the French seam stuff, all the sewing is gonna be happening on the side, so I decided to kind of stop here. It might be a waste to do any more lines on the sides because they'll get covered up whenever we sew our French seams, because we end up losing about half an inch, a little more than half an inch on each side because of the French seams, but I just prefer that method. And I think we'll probably be able to assemble it today. It really kind of depends on if I choose to do the quilting on in the other direction. What time is it? I think tote bags are palette cleansers. It's like when you've made quilts and you want to make something kind of small. The last one I did, I was actually doing a tutorial. I did a live on this machine. So I have one other that I did that actually talks about the machine. You get to see the whole thing, the levers, the bobbin area, all of that. So if you're curious about it and you're watching this, go back to my live on the Baby Lock Sashiko. I'll have Quilt Husband drop that in the chat and post it in the description box so you can find it easier. Okay, when I'm done here, I'm gonna go over to the overhead and let y'all look at this, and we'll make a decision on if we think I should do more quilting or leave it the way it is. One break, y'all. That was really good, one break. Let's look at this. There's our stitches, isn't that nice? And then up close, this is the 12 weight that I used. And I actually used my semi-industrial Juki. I can do really thick thread on that machine, and I just used a jeans needle for it, for the bigger eye. I just kind of eyeballed it. It's not really perfect with my stitch, but okay, let's go take a look at this at the overhead and see what we think. And I'm also going to get a swig of water too while I'm over here. All right, that's what we've got. All those lines there. So I don't want to trim it down yet till we make a decision, but this is going to be the front of the tote here. I kind of feel like this is kind of keeping it simple. I mean, if we do them this direction, it'll be a bit busier, but I don't know. What do y'all think? That stitch is very peaceful. Yeah, it is peaceful, Brenda. Happy little threads, Quilt Husband, right in the Bob Ross saying. So there is the front, and then this is the back of the tote, like this. So what do y'all think? You think I should keep this? You like it? What do you think, Quilt Husband? Well, he's always good at this stuff too. He buys me my like shoes and some of my clothes. He's like really good at this kind of stuff too.
I do like the vertical.
Yeah, I think that's kind of unique.
Makes it look taller.
It does look taller. It does look taller. Let's do the whole pretend it's a tote. Y'all probably can't see it from there, but this will be like the tote here. Now remember, we're going to lose ½ an inch, so we're going to lose about 1 inch total on here. What do you think? I think we'll leave it. I think we'll leave it. Sometimes though, like I said, I went ahead and drew the lines in case I wanted to go across. Now I will say one tip for you. And I probably should have used more glue-based whenever the spray-based, because what can happen is if there's too many like wrinkles in between and it's not really like stuck really well to your batting, when you go to stitch across, it can actually pull the fabric and kind of buckle over. So it actually might be wise to not do that, because I glue basted it whatever day we were together, Thursday, and I don't know if I used enough. You really want to get it, I mean, really glued down with your spray based really well, because when you go the opposite direction, let me kind of zoom in so you can see what I'm talking about. When you go the opposite direction, so say this is the needle of the machine. when it goes like this, do you see how it can pull that fabric kind of over? So I didn't really probably get it basted really well with the glue baste. So it's probably good that we just kind of leave it here. But those are the stitches you guys can see. There. Looks like I hand quilt. Looks like I spent hours, right, hand quilting that. No, we did not. Nurses need big totes. I think so too. Yeah, I think she'll like it. Okay, let's zoom back out here. Now what we're gonna do, we're gonna trim this baby down. I'm gonna move this other tote out of the way. So this is the size it's gonna be. Pretty much the size. This was actually, so this is my Friendship Blooms. If you have my Friendship Blooms pattern, this is if you do the whole block and then you applique it on top. For this one, because this fabric was so beautiful and shiny, I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna do just the flower. And the reason I put the flower up just a little bit more is because I'm gonna do the boxed corners here, and we're gonna lose some of the bottom when I do that, because this is ultimately gonna end up being, it's gonna have like a bottom to it, so I'm gonna lose a little bit there. This is an example of one I did not do the boxed corners because I didn't want to lose my, it kind of blurred a little bit. If I can get that to come back in focus. I didn't want to lose my points and all of my work here on my block. So if you're going to make this into a tote, or any time you use a block on a tote, if you don't know or don't have a lot of experience with them, I sometimes will add a whole extra strip of like background fabric on the bottom, so that I don't have to cut into my block when I do my boxed corners. Because in my boxed corners, I usually do 1.5 inches, 2 inches that I'll cut out. And if you did that, you would lose, I mean, it would just be devastating, right? Thanks, Christy. Welcome, Christy. I'm glad you're here. So just a little FYI, when I very first started making totes, I didn't think that one through, did not chart the course well. This one was actually, I don't really use this one. It's a demo. Whenever I'm doing trunk shows, or when I was at QuiltCon, I made this to go with the full quilt just for display. But I used my Baby Lock Sashiko on this one. I'll zoom in so you guys can see the Sashiko in action, or what it does. So I purposefully used white thread on the colored fabric so it would pop. And then I used dark thread on the light fabric. This is actually a rust color that matches this actually, I don't know what color this looks like to you all, but it's a terracotta. And so you can change up the color of the thread so that it pops more, but I did this on the machine there. So that's an example. And then the back, I just did straight lines down. And I don't know, you really can't see those as well. It kind of blends in with the dandelions, but I just did straight lines down here for that one. And I want you to see, because we're going to do the handles today, I use, and this is linked in the description box, this is 2-inch cotton webbing. I use this for all my totes, and I double it over. You just fold it over, double it, and you stitch down both sides, a top stitch down both sides. And this is what I normally will use. And see, when we do our handles, there's a special way that we do these, where we stitch it down like this, and then we fold it back over and stitch it again. So there's none of that flipping in and out and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, that's kind of what that looks like. But for this one, I was like, you know what we're gonna use? We are gonna use this awesome granny square. It's like crocheted, I don't know, but isn't that beautiful? And it's got the Kelly green in it right here and the yellow. So since I use solids, and this is very like minimalistic, I was like, this is gonna be the perfect material to use for the tote. So when we have these on here, you can see how that looks, like that. Thanks, Brenda. I did a little embellishing with that other one, the Make Lovely Things. I have that in my embroidery machine. So I did that. I have to show y'all too really quick. I bought these. These were like 99, it was like 99 cents. These are all embroidery designs. I have a little starter brother embroidery machine, and it'll do 4-inch squares basically. And so I bought these, to be able to do. And that's actually what I did on this one. So that's the other fun thing with this right here, this center. I actually embroidered on it. That's all embroidery with my machine. I had that digitized. This is my, this is the actual block itself, and this is my Make Lovely Things sticker. So for those of you that sometimes have bought stuff from me, I always include a sticker when you buy stuff from me. But anyway, that'll be fun. So I can, you know, you can embroider one of these and put that on your tote, all kinds of fun stuff. Do it by hand, but I'm just so excited about this. Like, I'm excited about the fabric being so pretty and shiny, but isn't this fun? So this is linked for you. Get on Amazon. They had all different colors. So these were like the happy colors, but they had, I think, blues and like black and white and earthy colors. So that's there for you. Okay, so I'm gonna set this aside for now. And we're gonna cut this down. All right, we're gonna trim this up. And see, basically all of that chalk that was on here is gone. There's just a little bit on there. Okay, let's get this out here. Do I have a recommendation for a starter embroidery machine? So I don't have a frame of reference for anything other than what I have. And I can tell you though, yes, I'll answer your question, and I'm also going to give you a resource because embroidery is not my wheelhouse. I am still very new at it. And I got one, a starter one, so I could make quilt labels. But then I realized, oh, I can do little 4-inch designs in my hoop. So I have the Brother SE600. Let me double check on here. Yes, I have the Brother SE600. And now they don't make that one, they make the SE700. That is the entry level, and I think it runs about $900. Mine I got from a friend's daughter, okay, that lives here where I live. She got it from a friend who, it was still in the box. Like, I don't know what the story was, but it was brand new. Like, it had the box, some of the wrapping was still in it, and all of that. Okay, I didn't get that quite right. Let's come down a little more. And it had everything in it. I think there was like one foot somehow that was missing that I had to buy, the replacement foot. And she sold it to me for $200. And I was like, you know what? That's a really good deal because I didn't want to pay $900 for a new machine that I was only going to use for labels every so often. And then when I saw like the digitized stuff, and then I didn't realize, oh, I can digitize my logo, which I did somewhere. Let me go grab it. I digitized my logo, and you can do this. If there's an image, you can get on Etsy, y'all, and there's like, for 99 cents, $2.50, whatever it is, you can get all kinds of fun things to put on your shirts, like your t-shirt. I did my Master Gardener on my t-shirts, but I mainly use it for my labels, and then I've gotten a little fancy and started using it for other things. So this is my logo. And I have a guy that digitizes images. So if you have an image and you want it digitized, you tell him what machine you have, and then he'll digitize. So that was my logo, and I just put it, you know, in here, which is super fun. So to answer your question, the SE700 from Brother is an entry-level one that was super easy because I'm not a technology whiz. It's just my brain, you know, doesn't always do well with that. Thank goodness for Quilt Husband. But I like things that are simple and kind of easy to understand. So, and I also didn't want to spend, you know, several $1,000s on a machine I wasn't going to use a whole lot. Ooh, did y'all see that shine when I turned it? So I normally don't use Brother stuff, but it just happened to be, it was a good deal. It was $200 and it would do what I needed it to do. My favorite brand of machines that I use the most is Juki, but I don't know anything about their embroidery machines. So the resource I'm going to give you, her name is Carly Belle. Carly Belle, Karlie. And that's her thing. That is her wheelhouse. And she actually has a beginner embroidery class online, and I got that from her. And she actually uses that Brother, the Brother SE700. and she's an excellent teacher, great instructor. She and I are sometimes we do demos on Sewing Machines Plus online for Blaine Austin there. Y'all know about Sewing Machines Plus, I think. Carly Belle's on there. So that is, Quilt Husband might be able to find her YouTube link and share that for you, Jennifer. But yeah, there's so much fun stuff to do, and it can get expensive, right? I mean, it can definitely get expensive with all the things. So when I can find something used, I'm all about that first. If it's, in good shape and I'm not like buying a lemon or whatever. So you might, if you're wanting to get an entry level, you might get on Facebook Market and see what you can find, because I can tell you sometimes there are a lot of people that they upgrade like every 3 and 4 years. And the machines they're selling are excellent. So if you don't know if you're gonna like embroidery, machine embroidery, you might get a used one like I did. Mine was like, it's technically used, but I think it might have been used just once or twice. I mean, the person that bought it was not into it, so they didn't end up using it very much. It was still in the box and everything. So that would be my advice for you. I don't know, anybody else y'all wanna, if you have any advice, drop it in for Jennifer in the chat. For those of you that might have embroidery machines, and let them know. I know the big thing is the hoop size matters. So if I had one wish, Jennifer, it's that this machine, I cannot stitch out anything bigger than a 4x4. The hoop that I have this is the hoop. It's a 5x7. So this is the hoop, it's a 5x7, but it won't stitch out anything larger than a 4x4. So if I had any advice for you, and Carly Belle told me this, but it was after I'd already bought this machine. She's like, you will be limited on what you can do because of the size of this. So a lot of people have mentioned getting one with larger hoop sizes. Okay, yeah, it looks like Brenda's saying that right now. She says at least get a 6x10 hoop. So this is 5x7. So you would be able to do a bit larger. And Carly Belle, that was actually her advice, but I had already got this machine. I just couldn't pass it up and this is actually, so the SE is a sewing and embroidery machine. So, if you need a new sewing machine, you might want to consider getting one that does both. The SE means sewing embroidery. It does both. So this machine, I actually don't piece on it or sew on it, but I could, in a pinch. I could if I needed to. Yeah, so it sounds like Brenda. Brenda, do you do machine embroidery?
Sounds like Bobby might as well.
Bobby does too. Hey, Bobby. Okay. Okay, Bobby says at least a 5x7 hoop. Okay. That's what I have, but it kind of also depends on what you're going to use it for. So for me, I actually even have a hoop that I can use for baseball caps, because I do wear baseball caps some. I have that one. I have a one that's like a 1x2.5 or something. I don't know where that one is. I think I have it put up. But the larger the hoop, the more you can do with it. So for me, mine's labels and little small things like what I showed you. Like I'm able to embroider my t-shirts if I want with my business logo on it, which is this size right here. So yeah, could do some fun stuff. All right. If I had thought this through better, y'all, I could have embroidered her name on here where it says Sarah. I don't know. I was like, I wonder if it's too late to do that. That's a little scary to do it after I've done all this. It could say Sarah. I don't know. What would y'all do? Hey, Laura. Welcome, Laura. Look at you and your fun emojis. Is this your first time here? Thanks for joining us on Thread Life with Belle. Okay, so Brenda loves it. So she loves doing it. She upgraded to a big machine after you watched Hoop Fest. Okay, so yeah, Hoop Fest definitely. Oh, that's so good to be able to learn about embroidery. That's what happens is you can start used and then, or start small, and then if you know you love it, work your way up. then you don't feel so overwhelmed by like, because there's all kinds of embroidery machines that have so many needles and they look like monsters to me. Christy has the SE630. So Christy, how old is that one? Mine is the SE600. Is yours a brother? I'm not familiar with that one. You still could, don't hoop it, float with the sticky stabilizer. You would add embroidery. I have tearaway stabilizer and I have the kind that melts, which I haven't used the kind that when you wash it, it's wash away. I'm a little scared. I could add some free motion. I would say my free motion skills, I don't feel like I'm great at. You know, I dabble and do a little bit of it. But yeah, I could put her name on here. But I need to do it before I put all this together, y'all. Definitely going to have to make a decision on that. Okay, let's take a vote. Who thinks I should use my brother and put Sarah in here? Yeah, they probably won't be able to. I'll have to do it another time. I'll have to do it later. What do you think? Should I do that? Or should I leave it? Maybe she, as a nurse, doesn't want people when she's walking in public to know what her name is. That could be a little frightening. For all of a sudden someone to say, hey, Sarah, or they know her name. I mean, there's kind of crazies out there, so I don't know. I don't know how private she is. Maybe she doesn't want her name out there. I used to be a social worker, and I had crazy, crazy experiences with offenders and perpetrators and stuff and all of that, so I am a little cautious about that kind of stuff. Okay, Christy, you bought yours at Walmart 3 years ago. A brother? Yeah, learning opportunity. I know it is. Well, I know how to use the machine, you know, and I know how to do stuff like this on here. But when I did this one, I did just the fabric first. Like before I even cut it into the hexie, I did it separately. I've not done it where I've got batting behind it, which, I mean, that serves as a stabilizer, right? But boy, I would hate for something to go wrong. And I've done all of this work and then I mess her name up. Maybe should be private. Yeah, I kind of, now that I'm talking about it, leaning a little bit more towards she may not want her name out there. Y'all, I've got batting fuzz all on my face. Whew. Okay, we'll not do it. I'll not do it. I know it would be a great learning experience, Brenda, but I better err on the side of maybe she doesn't want people to know her name when she's walking in public. So we won't do that. Okay, so now let's look at, let me get the lining from the other day, and we're gonna look at assembly. And before we do, we need to cut our straps. So this is the inside, y'all. And I went ahead and used, well, there was leftover fabric there. And I used that for her. And I don't know, I'm probably not gonna put my label. I have my brand label that I put in stuff that I sell, but I don't think I'm gonna do it on this one. Just leave it where it's no tag on there. I got a couple of other fun tags, so let's see what we've got. Fun labels. I've got some from Sarah Hart's. Do y'all know about Sarah Hart's? She has the cutest labels. And if I'm gonna do that, I need to do it like now before I start to assemble it. So let's look and see what we've got here. Let me zoom in. You guys can see what we've got. Okay, we've got, we want something to match. We've got sewing themes here. This one says, thanks, I made it. Which normally you put this on your stuff when you make it and you're out and about, because people say, oh, I love your bag, and you can say, thanks, I made it. So there's that one. This one says handmade with love. It says handmade. This is cute. It's like the little, look at that. It's the little yellow daisy. That's super cute. It's on both sides. That one usually you'll put like on the side there so it's inside. But I think it would look, I'm gonna figure out how I would do that though here. I've already sewn my pocket down. It'd have to be about right there if I did it. And that really is meant to be sewn in a seam. Let's see, this one says made at a retreat. This says cheerfulness, happiness. What else do we have here? Made by me, made in 2025. So what do you think? Tag or no tag? No name, Shelly. Okay, all right. Label will look cute on the outside seam. Yeah, it would look cute on the outside seam. I kind of like this yellow flower. The pink doesn't really match. The blue and the purple don't really match. So maybe we'll do that. I think I'll do that one. So we'll do it there. We'll make that work. I think I might need to try to fold those down and then sew that on. So we'll have to go do that right now. And I need to make sure I've got the right color thread in there. Put these all back. This is really handy if you've got labels. It's like a little tackle box to keep all those organized in. Just a little tip for you there to know what you have. So Brenda, you're saying I could do some outline stitching inside the flower to add some texture. Yeah, I could do that. I could do that. I think what I'm a little nervous about is there's a lot of curves in this. There's a lot of curves here. And so, I mean, when you get to following the lines on curves, it can get a little bit wonky. But I see what you're saying about the texture. The thread that I used here is the 12 weight. So I feel like I kind of need to keep using that. I could use the Sashiko, but I guess what I could have done is kept stitching all the way through the top of it, and then it would have added some texture, right? I don't know. Yellow tag on the outside of the bag. The outside of the bag. I'll have to give this some thought on where I'm going to put it. I don't know. We'll set it to the side. I got to make some decisions here, y'all. Good grief. Texture, no texture. I'm a little worried I might, like, if I did free motion, I'm afraid I wouldn't be happy with it. If I do more stitches, I really feel like I need to stick with the 12 weight that I used, which is in my other machine, which the camera's not connected to because it's my semi-industrial, like over there on the other side. I don't know, y'all. I think I'm just gonna leave it. I think I'm gonna leave. I mean, I like it like it is, but I don't want to mess it up. So I think I'll leave it. All right, let's go ahead and cut my handles. So your handles, you want to be 27, well, I find 27 inches is the sweet spot, but you got to do you, what's best for you, but I find that that is the sweet spot. So let me find, where's the other end of this? There was one end that was already frayed. There it is. Okay. So we're going to measure out 2. So we need 2 of these that are 27 inches. Now I don't want to, I got to think about this because this is going to be tucked underneath the bag. So we're going to lose part of it. I think I'll just make sure I cut it off at a section. This basically is 27. Kind of in between, you know, the seams right there. I'm going to cut it at 27 down here where that natural kind of intersection is. So we'll do that. It's actually going to be 26 and a half where that's at. Okay, so there we go. That's going to be 1. Cute. I'm so excited about this handle. If I textured it and it had to be washed, it could cause puckering. Yeah, that's true. That's true. I think I just better leave it as is, y'all. I better just leave it as is. Okay, let's come on down here. We're gonna cut again. It's gonna be 26.5 instead of 27 so that I'm cutting it not in the middle of a granny square. I know, honestly, I feel like the straps make the bag, right? Let's make sure I got this laid out. Okay, there's our 2 straps. So let's put this other up. I got plenty for probably 2 more bags of this. So I don't remember how much this cost. Quilt Husband dropped the link in there for y'all. I want to say it was like maybe less than 20 bucks. So basically you could do 3.
16 for a roll.
Okay, $16. So it was less than 20 bucks, 16 for a roll. So it looks like I have enough to do probably 3 to 4 bags, and it comes in different colors, but oh my goodness. It's like, this is darling. Especially with like a solid like this, when you're using solid, like the straps, I think are just complete the whole thing. So I think she's gonna like it. I think I'm gonna have to make one for me out of these straps. I don't know what the bag's gonna look like, but I've gotta make one for me. All right, got those cut. The tag. I think I'm just gonna discreetly put it on the pocket here, but I'm gonna fold those under. I think I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna fold those under. Okay, let's go to the pressing station and I'll press this. I'm gonna press these under because really this is supposed to be used in a seam. And that happens to me. I have an afterthought. After I've already like sewn something or whatever, and then I get an idea. My husband is really good. We call it chart the course. He's really good at that. And I'm all about getting to the outcome. So we have to use that language sometimes. He'll be like, babe, I think you need to chart the course on this. And I'll know exactly what he means. Or I'll say, we've got to get this done. Like, there's no more hanging out in the hamster wheel. We got to get this done. So we kind of complement each other. But when it comes to quilting and sewing, really, I should chart the course probably a bit more. My iron's not hot. I was doing too much other stuff and it kind of cooled down. So I'm just going to fold those under so it's not like, oh, that really wasn't meant to be used on the pocket. But you know what? We can do whatever we want, right? It's our stuff. Get that pressed down, and then we'll sew this on. I'm going to do it on the pocket. Just be kind of discreet. Add a little something to the inside, right? Okay. Let's sew this in. All right. We got a new camera view over here, y'all. Quilt Husband tried something different. We're doing the camera view from the back of the machine over here. And the other camera that we normally use, it's called the Pocket, and that's over at the Sashiko, and we're hoping we can leave it this way. So you guys will have to give me feedback on what you think about this view over here. Let's see, let me read what y'all are saying. I know, Brenda, the straps are so cute. I love them. Well, I'm glad I'm not the only one that does stuff last minute and you come up with an idea. Okay, now it's like, do I use green thread? Do I use the cream color thread in there? Do I change it out and put yellow thread in? I think I should probably use the yellow thread, y'all. Okay, let me go get it. See, sometimes I'm just like, nah, just go ahead and use whatever you got. But then it's like, why didn't I take the extra time? So I'm going to put this 28 weight in this machine. We're going to see how this goes. Sometimes I notice computerized machines can be a little finicky than like just my basic semi-industrial straight stitch. So we'll see. I've not ever put this thick a thread in this machine before. So I'm going to thread this, y'all. I know you can't really see what I'm doing, but I'm threading this machine here. And we'll use the matching yellow. So this is the yellow 28 weight that I use to actually quilt. I'm going to use it because it matches the tag. So we'll go ahead and do this real quick. So it's all matchy-matchy. I don't know if it's going to want to thread. It's kind of thick. It did. Okay. All right, no problem. Even with the needle being just the 70-10 needle, the thinner needle, my threader was like, yeah, I'll make it go through that hole. No problem. Okay, well, it's just a few little stitches, so that should be fine. So I always have to get a little, kind of fold this out of the way, because I always end up forgetting the tag until I've already done it. See, if I remembered, I would have done this before I even stitched this on the other day on Thursday, but Belle forgot. Okay, we're gonna just put it right here. Get that where it's not on the green. Okay, let's see. I've got my lock stitch on, so we're gonna do lock stitch front and back. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Okay, y'all, that looks nice. I used the yellow thread. Glow in the dark thread, huh? I've never used that. I've used glow in the dark fabric, y'all. Benartex has it's like a dinosaur themed. I made for Sweet Little Boys. They had helped us when we loaded our U-Haul. They came and him and his dad, and so I made like a pillow and a quilt, and it was a dinosaur glow in the dark fabric. Okay, there we go. That's cute. We got the tag sewn on. I like that. I think that's darling. It's just like a little extra on the inside. Okay, we're gonna take this thread out now because I don't think the yellow for that. We are going to use the green. I'm going to use green 80 weight. Let me think this through. The inside of this is the cream. So I got to think this one through. Let me look on my other tote, make sure I got my thread colors going on right here for the bobbin and the other. Okay, I need to use cream because, see, if you look here, this is the same fabric. Let me see here. Okay, can y'all see that here? This is the same lining that I'm using this time. And so I need to use the cream color thread rather than the green because I don't really want the green. I have this color green, but I don't want that showing. So I'm gonna go with the ivory. I think I've got a better color. Let's see here. I've got this color here. So I'm gonna use this and make sure my bobbin matches. All right. Charting the course, Belle. Charting the course, making sure I don't mess anything up here. We'll get this thread in here and we'll be ready to start assembling this bag. Yeah, y'all, I'm glad I didn't do the name now that I'm thinking about it. Like, she may not want the world to know that. And, you know, I mean, everybody's different with how private they are, so I would hate for that to prevent her from really feeling comfortable using it after all that goes into making it, right? And I don't want to tell her and ask her. All right, we've got that threaded. Let me double check the color of the bobbin thread. Make sure they're the same. Yeah, the one that's in there will work. Okay. All right, got that done. Stitch lengths on 2. Okay, now let's assemble this. That we got that done. All right. Okay, so what you do with this, we'll go back out so you guys got a broader view, is you're gonna assemble it like you would. It's gonna be like literally put together. And y'all remember these threads here I have that need to be buried? We gotta bury those. So let me get my needle. I have a self-threading needle somewhere, and that's what I'm gonna use. See where I put it. Have y'all ever used a self-threading needle? They're pretty cool. I think I'll have to get one out of the pack here. I'll show you what they look like. This is a self-threading needle. I actually have these in my shop. This is super bright because this batting is, we're gonna turn down that light. So these are self-threading needles, and there's a little, an open slit at the top of the needle where you actually just pop the thread down in it. It's pretty cool. So, put that out of the way. So I'm just gonna, I'll zoom in so you can kind of see what I'm doing. Hey, Judith. Hey. And Miss JB, hi, we're glad you're with us. Is this y'all's first time to join Thread Life with Belle? We're in the middle of making a tote bag with French seams, and I have quilted the front, and we're burying a few threads, and then we're getting ready to assemble it. So I'm just gonna tie a knot here. Move this over so y'all can see. I'm gonna tie a knot first. Really should have grabbed my tweezers. Okay. So I'm gonna tie a knot here. And then I use this needle to actually, oh, good grief. Let me grab my tweezers. Technically, I probably would be okay not burying these threads because this is on the inside of the bag, but I don't want that to loosen up, that stitch, so I'm just tying a knot where it's down there at the bottom. Then I get the self-threading needle, and you literally just pop it through the groove at the top. And then I can pull this back through the batting here. Make sure I don't go through to the front. Just pull that through and give it a tug. You'll hear that pop. And then I'll cut that off. All right, got one done. Let's do another one. So this is why y'all saw, when y'all saw me quilt this on the Baby Like Sashiko a little bit ago, and I like dragged the string here over the top right there like that. That's why I did that, because I hate having to like sit here and bury threads. But it is what it is sometimes. So there's a knot, and then I'm just gonna, and you could just tie the, I could just tie the knot and not bury this thread because this is not gonna be seen at all. If this was the back of a quilt, of course, I would have to for sure bury all of them. So I'm just gonna bury that in there in the batting. Just make sure I'm not coming through the front. And just pop it. Pop that off. Got another one here. Are y'all, like, everybody having okay weather this week? Did y'all have, I saw those tornadoes. We had some go through here through Arkansas, and then I think it was North Dakota. It's wild. It's just wild out there. Okay, 2 more. And then we're going to assemble this. See, if I was doing like a tutorial on this, all this would be like sped up. I'm actually just gonna, since there's a knot in it, I'm just gonna cut those off. I'm not gonna bury them. I'm just gonna do the knot and cut them. Judith, Miss JB, where are y'all in the world? What state are y'all in? Get my tweezers. That's the only thing about having fingernails. Sometimes they get in the way. One more. Put that needle up. I'll end up poking myself somehow, finding it later. You're having a heat wave in Michigan, Brenda? Yeah, I know a lot of people on the East Coast, like, it's supposed to be a heat index of like 106 or whatever. It's 90, I think it's what, 93 here today? Quote husband, it's 93, and it is humid. Like, I live with my hair up like this most of the time anyway, but especially in the summer. And Miss JB, you're in Arkansas. Yay. Hey, Josh. Good to see you too. Good to see you. Are you working on some kind of challenge today? Josh usually does some kind of Pantone challenge when I see him. Okay, y'all, here we go. Belle decided she's not going to embroider the flower or add anything else to it. I'm just going to leave it simple as it is. We'll let the straps and the quilting speak for itself. Okay, so let me zoom back out far away so y'all can see what's going on here. Okay, so you've got your tote. You've got, this is all one piece, your front and your back of the tote, all right? And you've quilted it if you wanted to quilt it. Now the lining fits on top, okay? So this is not how we normally, you know, how you do right sides together and all that kind of stuff. No, we're assembling it like how the bag actually would be. So if your brain gets twisted around, which mine does sometimes, you just think about it, okay, this is gonna be the tote. Like, here's the front, here's the back. And when I look down inside my tote, oh, I've got a pocket. And you can decide where you want the pocket to be, okay? So this could be turned the other direction. So this is how the tote's probably gonna be worn, like this. So it's like, do you want the pocket to be away from you or against you? So that's one of those things that I have to decide. And I think I'm gonna do the pocket on this end so that when she's wearing the tote, this side's against her body, right? Because this is probably facing outward. Then the pocket's right there. What do y'all think? Where do you like your pockets? Do you like it on the side facing your body or the side facing the outside of the tote? Josh, you're working on a diamond challenge? That sounds fancy. I think I'll do it on the inside, where it's facing her on the inside. Okay, so basically this is kind of how the construction works, all right? Now, what's gonna happen next is we're gonna be folding down, and you wanna try to have it the same on each side. Let's see what we've got over here on this side. Got an inch. Almost an inch on this one. We need to come down just a little bit more. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and clip this down just so that this fabric doesn't move. This fabric is a little shifty. This is like, it's like a woven, like a linen, but it's really kind of shifty, but I love how it looks, but it can be a little tricky sometimes to work with because it wants to like stretch out and stuff. So I'm just gonna go ahead and clip all of this down here just to kind of hold it in place. And what usually happens when I use this fabric is I have to like trim it down a little bit because sometimes it will stretch out a little bit. Do I suggest using this? Usually, no, but I have a lot of it and it's real sturdy. It's like a thicker kind of linen, and I just felt like it's kind of durable for the inside. Okay, we're gonna get all that kind of there, just kind of kept down with those clips. Okay, so this has to be folded over twice. This has to be folded over once like this, and we have to press it all the way down, okay? And then it has to come over again like that. Now, I've done it before where I have gone ahead and pressed all of this, move that out of the way, press it down once, and then once it's folded over a second time, you could tuck that under there, but you have to cut it, and I don't like having to do that. So we're going to take this over to the pressing station, and we're going to press this down, and I'm going to have to clip it because this is kind of thick. So after I press it down, I end up having to clip it. I'm going to go ahead and get my straps, so I've got those handy to assemble those over here. Let me get my clips. All right. So we're going to fold this down about 1/2 inch. Now see, it's good, see I've quilted this, so that green fabric is staying down because I quilted it. If you did not quilt your top/bottom, then this fabric, if you didn't baste it really well, I've made one of these in a hurry and didn't, and this fabric will not want to stick. It'll want to kind of separate from the batting, so it's another reason it's helpful, but I also just like the texture. Okay, we're going to fold that over again. Now, this is where it can get kind of thick, so you might need to use your walking foot. I sometimes will use fleece, fusible fleece, so it's a little bit thinner. And I usually use my other Juki when I'm doing these bags that are thicker. We'll see how this new Juki holds up. It'll be a test. Okay, so I go ahead, once I press it, especially when you've got the thicker batting, I go ahead and clip those in place so it kind of stays down. And we're also going to go ahead and put our handles in now. We're going to set those in place. Isn't that pretty? So you see, this is the top of the flower, so you have to kind of make sure wherever you're going to put things, you're not going to mess that up or accidentally fold. Like if this was a block, you wouldn't want your block to come all the way to the top because you're going to be folding this down, right? So I've learned trial by error with making these this way in a hurry and not thinking things through. You don't want to cut off part of your block. So like I said, add an extra strip of background fabric to the top and the bottom of your blocks are really helpful when you make it like this. Okay, we've got that all folded under. Now, let me get one of my rulers because we're going to want to make sure that one, this is not twisted. Okay, you want to make sure it's not twisted, but we also want to get these the right part from the edge. So let me grab my other ruler here and I'll get a marker. So we typically do it about 4 inches, but this is a much wider strap. Let's see where that's going to be. 4 inches is almost in the right spot. So 4 inches. So I'm just going to undo that clip and scooch that up underneath there at the 4 inches. Okay, that's going to get caught up in when we sew this down. So I'm going to clip that back. All right. And same for this one. We're going to measure 4 inches to know where that strap goes, which is about right there. So I'm going to scooch that up underneath there, all the way to the top. Oh, these straps are so pretty. Double check it. 4 inches. Okay. I'm going to do 2 for good measure because this strap is quite a bit wider than what I normally use. I use the webbing. Let me show y'all. Let me grab, I'll show you I tagged both of these for you guys if you don't want to splurge on the granny squares straps, which, oh my goodness. I mean, I've even got these, y'all. Let me show you these other ones I have. These are so fun. You can do so much fun, have so much fun with your straps. This is from Stitch Supply Co. Look at those cute kitties. Isn't that cute? And then this too, this is webbing. This color as well. This would have gone really nice. I don't know if she's a cat person though, so I didn't use those, but I felt like this had a little bit more colors. You can have fun with straps, really, for sure. But this is the big roll, and I've tagged it for you in the description box, but this is normally what I use. And I don't like, the reason I get the 2-inch is because I like to fold it over so that if you just do one, it's I don't know, a little flimsy, but it's perfect when you fold it over. The straps aren't too thick where they fall off your shoulder. So I literally will just fold this in half, and then I go to my sewing machine and I'll stitch a 1/8 of an inch top stitch all the way down, around, all the way up on this side. And I showed y'all what that looked like on my other tote. If you didn't see it close up, let me grab it and you can take a look at it. So here, this is it. This is what it looks like when it's all done. And see, that's a nice width, I think, of strap, because this is the technique that I use. This is how we do it. You can kind of see it here. Yeah, so I keep this on hand and I use this a lot, sometimes for my own. I mean, it goes forever, and I don't think it was that expensive either. I got it on Amazon. So that's another option for straps for you. But the granny squares, oh my goodness, I'm gonna have to make a tote for sure. Okay, so we've got all that down here. Now we're gonna take this to the sewing machine, and the first stitch we're gonna do is on the bottom. We're gonna come right along here, and we're gonna do the stitch right here all along the bottom, okay? I'm gonna engage my dual feed on this because this is pretty thick. So let's see how this goes with my computerized Juki that I'm using. I've not sewn really anything this thick through it. I've only had this for, I don't know, since March, I think, maybe. And so we'll see here. I'm gonna engage, let me switch the camera view for you. I'm gonna engage the dual feed, which, if you wanna see what the dual feed is, when I lift this up, it's this little thing back here on the back of the camera, or back of the presser foot. That's when it's not engaged. And then when it's engaged, you put that down. This was like a fancy part of the machine that it's basically like having a walking foot on, right? And it just catches underneath there. So that helps feed everything through really well. So we're just gonna do a stitch here. I'm going to do a reverse stitch when we start and for when we stop. Okay, let's see how this does. I'm going to increase my stitch length, 2.4. So that dual feed here, it helps feed when you've got, normally just think of it as a walking foot that's already kind of like on the machine that you engage when you need it. And sometimes I forget to engage it, but I tell you what, when you do thick stuff like this and you think walking foot, oh, it's dual feed is what I need to use. So, oh, you know what, y'all? The thread color is gonna be cream. I don't want that. I want that to be green. So guess what? That would drive me nuts. See, I don't think I would like that. Look at that color. I'm going to pick that out, y'all, and I'm going to swap to the green for, that's going to have to be for the bobbin. Don't y'all agree? You think it should be the green? I'll hold it up here so you can see it. Okay. I'm going to do the green, y'all. I'm not going to, that's too, like, see? Oh, and here I looked at, like, oh, I need to have cream. That's when we do the French seams. So we're just going to pick this out. Because I don't want to stretch this linen. So I'm going to have to kind of be a little delicate when I do this and not just be real rough with it. I'm making the tote look easy. Yeah. Well, I've made several of them. I probably made like 5 now, I guess, Josh. It is easy. I mean, of course, I didn't plan for this to happen, but this is part of lives. Okay. I'm afraid if I stick this underneath here, it's gonna warp. Oh, okay, it's not. Yeah, that would drive me nuts, y'all. We can't have that. We gotta have the green thread showing. So we'll just do a little do-over. Here. Josh, you're terrified to make them into totes. Well, this is the way to do it. In the description box, it kind of tells you, you know, the measurements. Use 1/2 yard for the lining, 1/2 yard for the inside. But you could do it with whatever size you want. But we're going to take a little pause here, and I'm going to wind a bobbin with the green thread. And I actually need to do a top one too. Okay. Well, that's what we're just going to have to do. I got this handy little box that kind of holds everything in there. We're going to make a thread change, y'all, for the green. Now, this is not the exact color green. The challenge is to use only Aurifil thread, and this was the color that was in there. But I feel like it blends enough that I'm going to make it work so I can follow the challenge and follow the rules, right? So let's wind the bobbin first. Now this is 80 weight thread. It's a little thinner, so we're not going to see the stitches as well, but I cannot put 28 weight in the bobbin. That just would be bad news bears. So we're not going to try that. As much as I would love that to be yellow, I need to follow the rules of the challenge, and that's not to use any other colors except what they sent me in the welcome box. So I'm just winding the bobbin right now, y'all. Judith, you like the Sashiko? You've been toying with adding one to your friend group of machines. It is fun. I tell you, it is a fun machine. I love it. As long as you like learn how to use it well and, you know, treat it good. And once you kind of figure out the thread thing and what it likes, it's like, it is a lot of fun. And it just, you know, whenever I have a tote or something that I've used it, people are always like, oh, that hand quilting is gorgeous. And I always tell them the truth. I don't lie. I'll say thank you. I didn't do it by hand. Okay, I'm not going to wind this bobbin entirely because this is not a color that I'll use all the time. So we're just going to do a little bit. But yeah, a lot of people, it's interesting because they think that they're like, they can buy a foot for any kind of machine to do this. And I know there are some other brand machines that can kind of mimic it by using, you have to use invisible thread, I believe, or there's like a special stitch where it'll like skip a stitch and kind of look like it. But as far as I know, there's not another machine that does it like this, as far as I know. Okay, let's put the cap on, and then we'll be good to go with doing this, and then I won't be worried about the thread not matching. Because y'all, this is part of the challenge. Use the colors we gave you to make this work. July, I think July's challenge is we're supposed to use, they gave us a bunch of scraps, these fun little strips of scraps, and we're supposed to use them to make something for the challenge. And I am gonna make a rope bow, y'all. I think it'll be perfect, and then use some of the thread that they gave me. All right, now we're ready. Okay, we got in green 80 weight thread in the bobbin in the top. Now we should be good to go. To give it a little bit of a push when I start out. Oh yeah, much better, y'all. We couldn't do that cream color thread. That would annoy me. I can be a little matchy-matchy sometimes. Make sure my straps are straight. So what we're doing here, now we got our straps in, y'all saw that. And we're gonna be doing 2 stitches. And just don't do what I did. Make sure you think about the thread color that's gonna be in the bobbin and you know what's gonna show through on your other side. So I gotta pull this extra thread out back here. You really need to think about that because it will show through, you know, whenever you're doing your stitching on the bobbin, so. And the dual feed for the win. Right, Brenda? I think you were the one that, it's like, Belle, why aren't you using your dual feed? Oh, I forgot. Not on this kind of situation here where you've got this thick of stuff. No problem getting this through. So we're just stitching that there. Do y'all have dual feed on your machines? I've never had one before. This is the first time. Normally the machine I had was a semi-industrial Juki, and I still use it for bags and stuff. I had to use a walking foot when I needed it. Okay, here we go. Now y'all can see that there, I think. I'll pull it over here so you can see it better. See the green? Yeah, woohoo! So here's what's gonna happen now. We could go to the other side and go ahead and do the same thing, or I can go ahead and do what I need to do here. And that is, you're going to flip, make sure y'all can see this. I'm gonna come over to the pressing station so you can see what I'm doing really well for this one. Okay, we've stitched this down like this, right? Okay, now we're gonna flip it up and we're gonna do a second stitch, and you're gonna wanna, don't get this too tight, right? You don't wanna pull this up with it, but get it taut, not tight. And I'll just kind of clip it from the side here, make sure it's straight. Because this is kind of, you know, crocheted or whatever, it's a little shifty, just make it straight. And we'll just clip that, make sure it's in place. Now, you can see, of course, the right side of it's going to be facing out to the world on top of her shoulders. And now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to come and do about 1/8 of an inch approximately all the way down here. We're going to come all the way through, and then that's going to secure this strap to be folded up now, right? So this is what it will look like once it's stitched. There'll be a nice pretty, see that green thread? Oh, that blended so well. So there'll be a nice pretty top stitch here, and that really finishes that off and looks really nice. So we're going to go ahead and do that, and then we'll do the exact same thing on the other side of this tote. And then we'll get to do the French seams. Oh, the shine. I can see the shine so good on the camera. I was afraid y'all wouldn't get to see it. I was bragging about this fabric. So for those joining kind of late, this is the Benartex sateen cotton, and it looks like satin, but it's cotton, like sturdy cotton. And this is the first time to use it, and I think I'm gonna make a patchwork skirt or something out of it. It's just, it's got a nice flow to it. Okay, here we go. A little back stitch. And just make sure your straps are staying straight, so, because you don't want them to sew them down crooked. So take your time. Now I just kind of hold it down with my finger. This is a much wider strap than I normally use. Oh, am I not back at my machine? I'm sorry, y'all. Quilt husband pressed the button for me. Sometimes I forget to switch camera views. So we're coming down here, just doing another top stitch. And then when you get to the strap, y'all heard me say this, but now you get to see me do it again since I didn't switch the camera. Just make sure your strap is really straight when you come over it. If you need to lift up your presser foot a little bit, you can. And then we're just coming on down. It's about 1/8 of an inch from the edge. And then I'll back stitch. Okay. Very nice. We'll come over here to the pressing station and we're going to do the same thing with the other side, but I want y'all to get to see what this looks like. Isn't that pretty? Oh, I love this. I may have to make one for me. She's 2 hours away, so it's not like we ever would be in the same place at the same time. But this fabric, gosh, I hope she likes this. Okay, so that kind of shows you how to do the handles, and we do the exact same thing on the other side. But it's, you know, they're nice and sturdy. All right, so we're going to flip this over, and we're going to do the same thing on this side. Get all my stuff out of the way here. All right, so we're going to fold this over about half an inch. Really press that down. And then I'll clip these again. We'll roll it over one more time. And I'm actually using a little bit of steam. I find that kind of helps quite a bit. So I have to tell y'all something that Quilt Husband and I are experimenting with, and we'll be kind of letting everybody know next month. At the retreat center, there have been some people that have asked, like, do y'all have like meals, or the meals provided, or, you know, cooking and all of that stuff. And we are out here in rural Arkansas. Like, it's just not something I can do to cook those kind of meals for people and run both businesses and all of that. And we do have a few restaurants in town, but, you know, they're 9 miles from the B&B. So Quilt Husband found a wonderful place that does catering 30 miles away in Hot Springs. And they have ready-to-bake meals. So we have gotten, let's see, we've probably sampled 8 so far. We've got more in the fridge. And they're like enchiladas and casseroles and breakfast casseroles, and there's even mashed potato, there's pasta salads, there's desserts. I mean, and it's a 5-star place. And they have great reviews. So we're getting everything to sample first. And so far, it tastes like it's something my mom made growing up. Like, it's like home cooked stuff. So we'll be able to start offering that option for the retreat center for people that want to come and they don't want to cook. We'll deliver all of the ready-to-bake meals. You literally just pop them in the oven, or some that you don't have to bake, like sandwiches and desserts and stuff. They're just ready. And you can pick like what you want. So we are experimenting with that, and I think in July we'll be able to start offering that. Because I'm in a Facebook group for retreats, and a retreat owner asked, what is the one thing that's like you absolutely got to have, like when you pick to go to a retreat? And there were a number of women that are like, I can afford to pay more for food, so I want the food, provided in some way. And then, other people are like, well, that doesn't really matter much for me because, I don't want to pay more. But a lot of people do, because you cook all week. A lot of women cook all week. And even, the guy quilters too. I mean, whoever's the cook in your family doesn't want to be cooking and then going to a retreat and having to cook there. So anyway, we will be offering that now. We just have to sample all the food so that we can vet it, right? And say it's good and good quality, and it actually, you just keep it in the refrigerator. It's good for up to 7 days in the fridge. And most people, they don't book their retreats here longer than 4 days. We've got a couple coming up that are 4-day retreats. And so we'll just have the menu on the website, and people can, 2 weeks before they come, the group can decide what all they want, and then we place the order, and they pay ahead of time, and then we go get it and deliver it for them. So yeah, that's something we're working on. All right, so we've got the second handle on. So just remember that the pretty side faces outward. So when you're like, which way? Just fold this over. Remember, this is the back of the bag. This is the outside of the bag. And when this is going to be flipped up, the pretty side is on the outside. So you can see that there. All right, let's take this over to the machine, and this time I will remember to change the camera view. And we will stitch this one down, and then we can do the French seams. How are we doing with time? Battery life, I should say. We're good? Okay, good. We've only had one time that Quilt Husband was like, okay, we've only got like 10 minutes left of battery. Okay, good deal. Yeah, because I really wanted to be able to try to get this done. I was hoping in 2 videos, but when the electricity went out during the storm on Thursday, that had to turn into a continuation of part 1. Okay, so these are down, and we're just coming, about between an eighth, and you do what makes you happy. An eighth to, this is maybe more like between an eighth and a 1/4 inch, just because this is so thick. And we're just stitching all the way down. Josh, you've got a Juki TL210?
He was asking if the dual feed's unique to that machine specifically.
Oh, you have a dual feed on your Juki TL, Josh?
He said he would love one on.
Oh, you love one. I know. So I'm with you, buddy. I have the Juki 2020, the TL. It's the same machine you have, only mine's silver, and it came with an extra box of quilting feet. And so I would have to put my quilting foot on anytime I was needing to really go through, where I needed stuff to pull both layers through really well. And that was one of the reasons I picked this Juki, this computerized one. I wanted decorative stitches, I wanted applique stitches, and then the dual feed, which I had never used before. But situations like this, you just, engage that back here. I think you saw it back here in the back. You can just pop it off when you don't want to use it, which is nice. Okay, now, for those that might have just popped on, I don't know, we're coming to do the same thing, but then we're gonna, now you gotta pay attention, because there have been times I've been not paying attention, and I forgot to fold this strap up when I came back for the second pass. So don't be like Belle. Try to remember, I'm gonna pin this up, to fold your strap up. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and clip those in place, because they can wiggle on you a little bit. Juki, Brenda, you have a 210 and hate the dual feed foot. I didn't think that the Juki 210 has a dual feed. The semi-industrials, the TLs, they just have walking feet, as far as I know. They don't have like a dual feed on them, I don't think. At least mine mine's a Juki 210, but it's really called a 2020 because that's when it was released. It's a platinum edition, but it's the exact same machine as the 210. And there's not a dual feed on that one, so that's kind of new to me. There's times I don't like to use the dual feed on this. There's times where, what was I sewing with the other day? I was sewing with something where it actually caused the fabric to shift. I think I might have been trying to sew, I've been trying to learn how to make little garment things a little bit. I'm trying to practice so I can make clothes. Anyway, I was sewing something, now I don't remember what it was, and I disengaged the dual feed because it wasn't working right. I was piecing something and I had the dual feed on from something before and I just disengaged it. So you just have to use it, you know, when it works best for you. But I tell you, for this, when you're doing these thick layers like this, it's definitely a help. Oh, you don't like the walking foot. Okay, that makes sense, Brenda. Yeah. I was like, yeah, I don't remember that coming with a dual feed, the straight stitch. Okay, y'all, we've got the straps on. Now, for what everybody's here for, well, I think a lot of people came for the Sashiko. Now we're gonna talk about the French seams and how this works for the tote. So let's go over here to the overhead, put all these clips back. All right. Let's see if I need to catch up with anything here in the chat. All right. So we've got our straps on, and I'm going to squirt a little bit of water. So I used the Clover friction pen, and you just spritz a little bit of water and it disappears. And that was when I was trying to get my pockets in the right place. So you just put a little bit of that on there and it disappears. Ta-da, it's gone. Just rub it with my finger. All right. And this is my special water bottle, so I don't confuse it with anything else. All right, so now this is the French seam part, y'all. And it does get a little thick. So again, the dual feed or your walking foot is needed. So if you don't have a dual feed, just use your walking foot because this gets kind of thick, especially when you're sewing over, you know, this part here. Now, if you didn't use batting, you just use the fabric only, no problem. Or even if you used a thin fusible fleece, no problem. But when I use thicker batting, and this is like a superior loft from something that I already had, it's pretty puffy. I mean, it's pretty thick. So definitely a dual feed day for me. Okay, so now what we do, I'm gonna unclip these here. We're going to fold our tote up. And this is gonna seem wrong to do, what we're getting ready to do. We're actually gonna sew a quarter, well, it's a little bit more than a 1/4 inch. I'd say it's more between 1/4 and 1/2, but try to do as close to 1/4 as you can, but because this is so thick, sometimes it's not a perfect 1/4 inch, it gets a little bit off, it's okay. So now, this is like, what? We're gonna sew and we're gonna see the seam? Yes, we are. We are gonna sew down both sides 1/4 inch, and then we're gonna turn it inside out, and we're gonna do it again, and that's what makes the French seam. So I have made one of these bags on my Juki, and it works great because it's a semi-industrial, but I do have to use the walking foot on it when I use thick batting. If I don't use thick batting, I don't have to. But yeah, definitely that machine sews through, I sew through leather, vinyl, all kinds of thick stuff. It'll sew through 12 the thicker the batting, the more you're going to need your walking foot or your dual feet, at least from my experience. So, yeah, Jennifer, yes, the answer is yes. Let's see what else we got here. Yeah, I mean, I honestly, if I had to pick, and they said, Belle, you can only have one sewing machine, I would pick my Juki 2020 TL series. It's in the TL series. I would totally pick that one because it can do everything except decorative stitches. And, you know, we don't have to have that. So, okay, so now what we're gonna do is I clip, because you want this to stay even. You don't want this when you're sewing. I don't want this to shift, okay? So if you start down here and you get to sewing, before you know it, this could be uneven. So I always clip here and I start up here too, all right? And it's pretty thick. I mean, it's pretty thick. So that's where that whole dual feed thing comes in. And I go ahead and, now remember this lining does kind of stretch out just a little bit, so I usually have to end up trimming it after I've sewn it. I'll trim it down, but I am a clipper, and I definitely suggest clipping all the way down. I'm gonna do it on both sides, okay? So I've got this nice here clipped here and here so that this stays even here before I do it. Hey Lisa, we're glad you're with us. We're glad you're with us. Yeah, finally some decent weather. I think we're gonna be good for what, 10 days? Which I'm really glad, because our tomatoes are like suffering from all this rain. And I've got to have some minor surgery on Thursday, and we really didn't want to deal with all that rain on the road. It's like just 2 hours away to where I go. Okay, I'm gonna do the same thing here. Make sure this is even up here at the top, and clip these there at the top and then down on the sides. Because we do want things even, don't we? Now, here's what I could have done. I could have serged. I could have done a basting stitch all the way down here. And I have done that before. I have done a basting stitch before, because see, my quilting didn't come all the way to the edge, so that you kind of got some loose fabric here. So I'm gonna have to be careful. The wise way to do it, honestly, is just to do like a basting stitch if you've not quilted densely, or if, like for me, my basting spray's kind of loosened up since Thursday. This could be a little problematic if I'm not careful. I could have serged the edges, but here's the kicker. You don't want your stitch or your serge stitch to go out further than 1/4 inch, because when we flip this right inside out and we stitch again, we don't want this stuff to show up on the inside, like peeking through that stitch we're gonna do again. You'll see what I'm talking about here in a minute. So anyway, pinning is gonna be really good, and just taking our time, since I did not do a basting stitch on the side of these, or I didn't serge it. I've actually not serged one of these before. I've just started using, I've had a serger for a couple years and I've been afraid of it. I got it out the other day, y'all. I was so proud of myself. I made my surgeon, he's a cowboy. I made him a surgical cap, and part of it was I wanted to do that for him. He's such a nice guy, but I wanted to practice using my serger. And I did. Look at those serged edges. I don't know if you can see them or not. I was so proud of myself. This is like a game changer, so stuff doesn't look all, you know, frayed inside. But on this one, I'm afraid it would show through, and I'll show you what I'm talking about in a bit. Okay, we've got this all clipped down. And now we're gonna go stitch, all right? And we've got our green thread in for this first stitch, which is fine. But when I do the next stitch, once we fold this right side out, let me go to change the view here. I'm gonna have to change to the cream thread, because I don't want green thread inside the bag. You'll see, you'll see what I'm saying here in a minute. All right. So here we are up at the top, and this is where you have to sometimes on this machine, I'm able to get this presser foot to go up, I think 3 different levels. Let me check my setting and make sure it's on the highest. The pivot, yep, it's up 6 millimeter. So I think that's what that stands for. It says 6.0. So I'm going to come down and do about 1/4 inch. Oops, okay, go back to sewing. There we go. Drop the needle down. And I'm going to have to give it a little push, and then I'm going to back stitch for a sec. And then a little push, because this is pretty thick. Whoops. Oh, I hit my pedal. This pedal, if you hit the other side of the pedal, it will cut. Whoop. Okay, that was thick. Huh? Says, no, no, Belle. You got too much going on there. If I had a camera over at my other machine, I probably would do this part there. But I did this the other day well, actually that one I showed y'all. It was the back stitch, I think, that got me. We've got that secured there, so I'm going to kind of pick up where I left off under there and get that underneath there. We'll try that again. Honestly, I probably should put on a jeans needle. That's what I'm going to do, y'all. I'm going to put on a thicker needle here. And it'll be happier, I believe, if I do that. We'll put on a thicker needle. I'm going to take this one out. Just keep it to the side. Isn't this cute? Look at this little pillow, y'all. It's from Madame Sew. And when you take your pillows out, you can actually, your needles out, you can actually put them in the different places so you know what they're for. Isn't that handy? Okay. So we're going to put that back in the Microtech, and then we're going to put this thicker one on here. This should help. This is like a wardrobe change when I have to like change needles, change thread. It's like, I feel like I'm doing a wardrobe change. Okay, I've got that back on. And let's get this threaded, rethreaded again. But yeah, no problem. When I'm over at my semi-industrial Juki, no problem. But I do have to have the walking foot on though to make it over that hump. All right, get that threaded. Ah. I lost it. This thread is a lot thinner. This is the 80 weight. Okay. Now we got it. Hump jumper behind it. What's a hump jumper? What is a hump jumper, Lisa? Are you talking about the foot, this one? Are you talking about this foot right here? That's got the, where it'll go over it? I could use that one. This is the one where it's got the little spring and it'll go over it much better. Yeah. Yeah, well, the thing is, y'all, I mean, I've got my serger, it's plugged in, it's ready to go and everything to have serged those edges. But it's white thread, and if I had to change all that with y'all on here, that would take forever. I don't have green thread. I'm going to change this foot, take this foot off. We're going to use this one because this one actually is made to go over big thick stuff. Okay, this might help. This foot, I think this is, if I remember correctly, is what it's meant for. Because of that spring, you can kind of lock it in place. I've only used it like once or twice. You like press it in, I believe. Nope. It is not happy, y'all. Not happy with that. I'm gonna put the other foot back on. I'm gonna start at the beginning rather than the middle like that where I did. I would do this over at my semi-industrial Juki, but we don't have a camera over there. But with thick stuff like this, I usually do use that machine. So let's start back where it's a little thinner and see if I can make this work. If not, I may have to pop over to that machine for a minute. There we go. Okay, we did it, y'all. Just had to be gentle. I just couldn't start in the thickest part of it. I had to like go back to where I was. Okay, I've got a jeans needle in. And I need to actually put the jewel feed back on. Okay, here we go. Now we're back in business, y'all. This is why I would never get rid of my semi-industrial Juki for thick stuff like that. They just do better. It's like a whirlpool, you know, the old whirlpools that just are sturdy. Okay. You have the Juki 644D. Is that a serger, Brenda? I have a, so what I have for a serger, I've got the Baby Lock Imagine, which they don't make anymore. I think the, it's now called, is it maybe called the Victory? Anyway, this one I got used, y'all, probably 3 years ago on Facebook Market for $500. And I got the receipt for it. It was a $2,000 serger. And it all had the stuff with it too. The lady said she just didn't use it very much. So I bought it because I wanted to be able to serge the edges of my quilt. And then we figured out we were gonna be moving and I was a little nervous about it, but I love the Airjet, like the threader, the jet threader. Oh my goodness, that is amazing. And this got the automatic tension. Because I knew if I was gonna do it, I was not gonna get one of those, what I call old-fashioned ones, where you have to manually adjust the tension and thread that thing. Like, I don't think Belle would have had any joy, and I did not wanna do that. So I was like, I'll see if I can find a used one. So I did. Oh, Lisa, you and Lisa are comparing machines? Yeah. Okay, here we go. Let's try this again. Let's see how this side does. So now I'm stitching down the other side, approximately 1/4 inch. Come on. There we go. Okay. Had to give it a little push. We got the dual feet on. You can hear that jeans needle. I don't know if y'all can hear that jeans needle. It's a pretty big needle, so you can hear it kind of going through the fabric, but I feel like I was gonna break a needle if I didn't pop that one on. And then we'll do another wardrobe change, and I'll put my Microtech needle back on, and then I'll have to change out and put the cream thread. So that kind of stuff takes a little more time, but you know, you don't want certain colors. I don't want this green thread to be showing in the inside of the tote. I don't think that's gonna look very good. We're just gonna make sure all of that's there, and we're almost down to the bottom. We'll back stitch. All right, we did it, y'all. We did it. You lost out on a baby lock air threader combo. Yeah, they're hard. I mean, I don't think that one was for sale very long, the one that I got. It was one of those things where I just had to like stop what I was doing and go meet the seller like immediately. And I mean, she gave me a huge tote bag full of thread. I mean, I've got red, light blue, navy blue, cream, brown, and taupe. But Baby Lock has sent me some of their serger thread, which is it's called 43, like you spell out the word 40, and 3 is the number. And they've sent me some, and so I'm gonna be using that, try that out. So right now I've got what that lady had given me. Okay, so here we go. Yeah, with the Facebook stuff, you snooze, you lose kind of thing, y'all. I've got a lady coming tomorrow. I'm having to get rid of my vintage patchwork couch, y'all. So the long arm's finally coming. It'll be here week after next. And to put it in here, I have to get rid of my vintage patchwork couch. So I'm giving it away to a good home. I had like 4 people immediately message me yesterday, and so the first person that messaged me gets dibs on it. Okay, she's coming tomorrow at 2 to get it, and we're gonna make room, get it all ready to make room for it. And then Quilt Husband and I, they were gonna come and assemble it and all that for us, but it just didn't work out. So now Quilt Husband and I are gonna assemble it, and I'm going to learn how to use the Butler robotic system that goes on it to do the edge to edge. So anyway, I found out, and lots of videos to follow. Lots of videos. It's supposed to be pretty easy. I thought I was going to be starting to sew my samples with my new fabric collection in early August, but I just found out yesterday the fabric's probably not going to be here till the end of August, which means I have to sew 3 quilts in 4 weeks before quilt market. So I'm going to have an extra month to spend time with the long arm to get used to it, and we can become good friends. So I'll be spending July and August doing some of that. So you guys will get to come along on the adventure of Belle learning to use a long arm. I've done sit-down long arm, but I have never done anything with the big frame. So this may be entertaining, frustrating for just a little bit, you know, until I get used to it. So for those of you, I know my other friend here, Lisa, that's one of my testers, she does long arming. So I'm sure you guys are gonna have a wealth of tips for me that already use a long arm. So yeah. Yeah, Butler, I'm excited. Butler is very user-friendly from everything I researched and all. Like their stuff's user-friendly, and they're very lovely to work with. So I'm excited about that. And I'll be getting it's a King Quilter 2, which is what I already have for a sit-down. It's actually made by Handy Quilter. So it's ultimately a Handy Quilter. Then the Butler Robotics is on it. It's their Ruby, and it has, I think, like 500 panographs in it, and then I can add more if I want. Brenda, you assembled your quilt frame yourself? Your old and disabled magic dish for screws so they don't roll away. Oh, that's a great idea. Yeah, Butler automation on your wish list. So listen, if you're kind of thinking about that, follow along, because there are 3 different ones. There's the Ruby, there's the Sapphire, the Emerald, and the Ruby. And so they're training me kind of on all of that, and you'll get to see like what the system does. It all basically does the same thing. The only difference is the number of panographs that you get that are in there. So they even have one you can put on your regular, my Juki, my TL. You can put that on a frame. So Josh, if you're still on here, you could use that. The Butler has a system that will make your regular Juki, which mine is I think it's got a 9-inch throat space. It can be on a frame, and it can do edge-to-edge quilting. It's crazy. John, the engineer, I was talking to yesterday on the phone, because they're gonna ship it, I think, the end of next week, so it doesn't arrive while I'm out of town. And yeah, so we're excited. We're excited about that. Okay, here we go. So now let's finish the French seams, y'all. We are almost done. So this is ugly, right? Look, you've got your raw seams here showing all of that. Now, what you want to do is you want to make sure you don't have any like loose strings and stuff. And if you can cut this down as much as you can without cutting into your stitches, do that. This is a 60mm rotary cutter. and that's what I suggest you use. So I just kind of go back and trim off any excess that I can, and be careful because that's a little thick up there at the top. Because we're going to be folding it, we're going to be turning it right side out and then doing this again from the inside. And so we want to make sure none of this shows up when we do the next stitch. And that's why when I stitch the second one, I actually do about 1/2 inch. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. I've done it once where I wasn't paying attention and I could see this showing up. To be real careful with that area right there. And then I'm just gonna trim off any extra without trimming off my stitches. Okay, you want that to be nice and smooth. And had I serged this and I had green thread, I could have done it, but I would have had to make sure that I was barely serging on it. Or I would have to make sure that this stitch we're getting ready to do now, I did definitely a 1/2 inch for sure. Okay, we've got that trimmed down where all that's off there. So that should help us tremendously. Okay. All right, now what we're gonna do, this is what's gonna look now. We still have to do we'll have to box this at the bottom. So actually this is gonna come up a little bit because I'm gonna make it where she actually can put a lot of stuff in it. We got to do that after that's another part. We have to do that too. So y'all can hang around for that if you want. Okay, now we're going to turn it inside out, okay? Yeah, so Brenda, that magnetic dish, I think I have one that I will get out for Quilt Husband and I to use. It actually is a magnetic pen holder, and it's in my cabinet. I'll have to get that out when we get off here so I don't forget. I think that will probably work. Okay. You have a magnetic dish? Oh, he has one. Okay, so here we go. Now, we've got all these poked out. You want to have your corners poked out really well. Good, there we go. Now, I used green thread. I really should have used the cream thread when I did that. You can kind of see the green thread just a little bit through there, but I'm definitely going to put the cream thread on when we do this stitch, because now this stitch is going to come down through this part of the bag. Now, I'm a little nervous here with this machine about this part. I'm going to go to the pressing station. I'm going to steam this down flat, and because this is now going to be, you want to make sure when you're stitching this, you're definitely far away from this, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 layers in there doubled over. We definitely want to come over about 1/2 inch. So where's my ruler? Yeah, you definitely want to come over 1/2 inch on that for sure. So what we're going to be doing now is we're going to be stitching about 1/2 inch all the way down this tote to the bottom on both sides. So both sides we're going to do that. So I'm going to press this first. On both sides all the way down. So give it a good, let's go give it a good press all the way down to make everything as flat as we can before we stitch it. And make sure I've still got water in there for steam, so that's good. We're just going to steam this baby up. Try to make that pretty flat there before we stitch it. And you know, like I said, if I'd had green serger thread, I might have probably done that. I'm still getting used to my serger. And we're just gonna steam and press that down really good. We'll do it on both sides. Are y'all sewing today? I know Josh said he was. What are y'all doing today? Are you in your studio sewing? I'll give that a good steam there. I'm gonna flip it over and also do it on the other side. Just try to make this really flat. Because now we're getting thick. I would say if you don't have, honestly, I don't know about other machines. If you don't have a Juki TL, I don't know if I would have used as thick a batting as I did. You definitely are going to want to use your walking foot though, I think. We'll see how this works for mine, this computerized machine. For all the fancy things it does, it's still, it's not the workhorse with thick fabrics like my TL 2020 is. We'll see how this goes. All right, let's go over here to the machine. And I'm gonna have to swap out the color thread, y'all, because I don't want the green. You're cleaning house, Brenda? Like, do you just have me like on your TV, or am I in your earbuds?
No, I'd be watching the TVs.
Yeah, you know, I was looking y'all at my, like I can see what people watch from, like what gadgets. And what was it? Was it 65% of the people watch from their TV? And, you know, I have a TV here in my studio. And sometimes I'll watch stuff, you know, other people's lives and all. If I'm not needing to if it's something I'm not needing to concentrate on, I can do that. But if I need to concentrate, I can't. I get myself all sideways.
Bird sounds. Bird sounds.
Yeah. Normally when y'all, I turn it off when y'all are with me on lives, but I normally have my bird sounds on. I love my birds, but you can't really hear them in here, so I just turn it on a bird channel. Okay. We're putting the new thread in here. So we've got the cream going on. All right. Let's get the dual feed. Got the dual feed on, y'all. Now, I'm actually gonna start down here at the bottom and end down here, because when you start up here at the top with it this thick, it can be a little hard. So I'm gonna start where it's thinner. And what you wanna make sure, you're coming like 1/2 inch or a little bit more than 1/2 inch, because you wanna make sure you sew, and this all that frayed edges from your other seam, you wanna make sure you've stitched well to the left of that, okay? You can kind of feel it with your finger. So we're gonna start about right there. It's about 1/2 inch. Back stitch. I cut the thread. And I usually have to, with this machine, I kind of have to give it a little push. And then we're good. So I'm just stitching right down here. Now this is the French seam we're making, okay? It looks all fancy. And you can see this is where that 1/4 inch is over here. It kind of makes a little hump there. That way we know we're stitching well to the left of it, because you don't want that to show when we open this up. And that has happened to me before if I'm not careful. Now, the thing about this is there is going to be cream color thread on this green up here. There just is. There's going to be no way around that. And this is, I'm now using a 50 weight thread. That 80 weight was pretty thin. I should have not used that 80 weight when I did that first, the first French seam that we were making the first part of this. I forgot to change it out. Okay, here we go. This is where, I don't know, y'all. We'll see if this is gonna go. Okay, we did. We're able to do it. Look at that. Now we're going to have the cream color thread there, but there's just no way really around that, I don't think. It's just how it's gonna have to be. So I'm gonna cut those threads off, and I back stitched there a couple times. So we're gonna come back here and cut these threads off too. We'll have to box it up in a bit. Here we go. That's what the French seam looks like, y'all. Isn't that nice? It looks really nice in there. Now, the kicker is when we open this up, we gotta make sure there's no frayed stuff showing. Yeah. Gotta make sure that's not happening. Okay, I'm gonna do the same thing on this one. I'm gonna come down here. And I'm really not overly worried about back stitching there at the beginning because I'm doing the box corners. But you can see this is ultimately, all this in here is where the raw edge of that previous seam was. So we want to make sure we're stitching well beyond that. There we go, we're coming up on the hump. Jean's needle for the win, y'all. Jean's needle. If I had had a thinner needle, bad news bears. Got it. Okay. Now, let's open this up and see how we did. Let's open this up and see how we did. You've used a zipper foot to get close on thinner material for French seams? Yeah. The problem with that is because that zipper foot is so narrow, it helps me make sure that I allow all this extra room here, because what's happened is if I sew a 1/4 inch, sometimes all the little threads and raw edges will pop through. So let's open this up. So I have found when I use my 1/4 inch foot, it makes all this make a nice little tunnel on the sides. And I usually don't have that problem where it's showing. So let's check and see, because I've had that happen twice when I wasn't really paying attention, and it's not fun because then you've got to go back through and stitch over it and all that stuff. So let's see how we did. We did good. So far, so good. Okay, we don't have any raw. Like, what can happen is if I had not sewn about 1/2 inch like I did, then we would be seeing right here threads. We would have seen our frayed edges from when we sewed that seam before. So we're good. We definitely are good on that. Look at that. And we still have to do the boxed edges, but you can kind of see how that works. And you know, I put this up a little higher because we're gonna lose a little bit when this bag expands, but there you go. That is, you have made a French seam if y'all have not done this before. And I think it looks really nice. Now we've got to do the boxed corners. That all looks good. Okay. All right. Oh, thanks. I know, I was a little nervous. That was super thick right there. And normally I do this part over on my semi-industrial Juki, but we don't have a camera over there. So I hated to just leave you here listening to me talk and not be able to see it. But what I may do when I'm done with the rest of all this, I may go over there later, and I actually will probably go on that machine, and I'm going to do like several back and forths up here, because this is kind of the part that gets a lot of action, is up here. And I actually will probably put in some green thread, because you can see a little bit of the white through there. It's a tough decision, because it's like I don't want green thread showing inside here, but you can see a little bit of the white thread through there. So yeah, and it's not too bad with the quilting lining up. I mean, it wasn't perfect, but those lines are there. These are a little bit closer. Those were a little bit closer to each other, but overall, I think it's really cute. Let's do a little modeling of it, even though we don't have the boxed, we haven't boxed it out yet. Isn't that cute? It's a nice size. It's not like overly big, but it's just right. She's kind of petite. So by the time you do your French seams, this is the size, you know, that it is. And look at those straps. Isn't that darling? So cute. Yeah, so now you kind of know what it would look like. And here's what I learned. The bigger the bag, the thinner it makes you look. Did you know that? If you get a bigger bag, you look thinner. And I've got a couple of really big totes, really big ones. Okay, so now we're gonna do the same thing. We're actually going to box our corners. And it's so weird because you're like, oh my goodness, I just sewed over the good part. You're gonna sew. We gotta get it kind of opened up, and this can be a little bit tricky to make your triangle. Whoops, let's go overhead. So now we've got to get it opened up and make our triangle here and figure out how much do I want to cut off. And I think for this one, I may do probably 1.5 inches. Let me see, I might do 2 inches. Let me see what I'm gonna do here. That would be 2. That would be 3. Maybe I'll do 2.5. It's about 2.5 is right there. Okay, I'm gonna mark this. So I'm measuring, like, this is where I will actually be sewing, and then I'll be cutting that off. So you have to kind of decide, you know, how big you want your bag to open up. So I think I'm gonna do 2.5 here. So that means it's gonna be about right there. So I'm just gonna draw a line. That's gonna tell me where I'm gonna sew. Actually on the side of the fabric right there like that, all right? Now I have learned to use clips, or this thing will want to shift, because you want your seams, you know, to come right down the middle here. So I clip on both sides so this thing doesn't shift when I'm sewing. I just clip there on both sides of it to kind of keep it all in place there. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to go ahead and measure it and get that clipped. So this will be ready. And I usually I hold mine up to make it even like this, especially with a bag kind of this thick. I mean, I think this is going to be pretty sturdy for her. Okay, I'm going to flip it down here. And then we're going to measure again about 2.5 inches. Two and a half, so right there. And we'll draw our line. Okay, and then we're going to clip it again. And this is thick down here too. The nice thing is we're actually going to be, once we sew here, I actually, usually I'll use scissors. It's a little easier because it's pretty thick. We'll be cutting all this thick stuff off down here, which will be nice. The more you cut, the narrower the bag. Yeah, it is always scary cutting the corners. Yeah. Well, see, I made my flower up a little higher. So what you can see here is this is ultimately going to be, now it will be even because the bottom of the tote is going to be right here, right? So now it's going to be like where it should be, because she'll have like this much for the bottom of her tote to store stuff. So if we had come up even higher up here, so the more we cut, then we would have a much wider bottom. So if we came up like more higher up here, then we're gonna have a larger bottom for them to put in. So for her to put stuff in. So it just kind of just depends on if you want it narrow or you want it wide, but the more up you go, the wider your bottom's gonna be. the further that you cut off down here, the narrower it's going to be. All right. Here we go. So we're going to go over and we're going to sew over our drawn lines here. And make sure you accidentally don't have stuff bunched up underneath here when you're sewing. So just kind of double check. Make sure everything is smooth under there. I kind of will stick my hand in the bag. Just make sure everything's flat, opened up like it should be. All right, here we go. And we're not going to see this thread. This is the thicker 50 weight thread than that 80 weight. But we're not going to see, whoops, dang it. We're not going to see this. I got to turn the reverse stitch off. We're not going to see this. So, okay, we're going to go over a pretty big little bump here. Kind of give it a little bit of a push. Make sure everything's flat under there. You don't want to have a little where you've got your fabric stuck underneath there and it kind of buckles a little bit. We don't want that. Did a back stitch. Okay, so y'all can see that now. That's what we did. We sewed right here. All right, we're gonna do that on the other side too. I'm gonna cut, you wanna cut these threads off because those will show up when we make our other part of our French seam. All right, so now we got this flipped over. I'm gonna stick my hand inside the bag here, make sure everything's flat. Nothing's bunched up or making sure my seam is still even there. All right. Take those clips off as we go. Here we go, we're gonna go over the bump. That jeans needle for the win, y'all. I highly suggest if you don't have like a semi-industrial, which I'm not using, the jeans needle, I think I would have broken the needle otherwise if I hadn't, because this is pretty thick batting. Okay, all right. Now, home stretch, y'all. We're almost finished. Almost finished. Okay. This is super thick here. This is like super thick. So you can use scissors or a rotary cutter. I'm going to use, I've got some kind of pretty heavy duty scissors over here I'm going to use. These are my garment scissors for all those garments that I don't really sew that I'm like wanting to sew. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to try to cut as close as I can. Let me zoom in. Because again, we don't want like all those frayed edges there to show. So y'all can probably see with that. I'm gonna really kind of cut as close as I can. And these are super sharp scissors, so they cut really well, even through that really thick part right there. All right, we cut it off. These could be used for those little, you know, you ever heard them called pee-pee tents for little baby boys, like when you change their diaper and they pee on you? I think they are. Cool husband's laughing. I think they're called pee-pee teepees or something. And you like stick this on their little, you know, and then that way they don't pee on you when you're changing their diaper. Every time I cut one of these off, I can't help but giggle because that's what I think about. I was like, could serge the edges or something and use it for selling for that, right? Could have a little second business. Yeah, this cuts like butter. These are called Pro Shears. I think they're made in Germany, but these things are really nice. I mean, they are really nice. Boom. Got another one. Somebody want me to mail these to you? Okay, Mama Two Boys, yep. PP tents, they're PP tents. Brenda, you want me to do you want me to mail these to you? Like, can they be made into those? Like, I've never made them. Okay, y'all, look at this, look at this, look at this. Okay, let me zoom out. Look how much space she's gonna have, y'all, to store stuff. So this is 2.5 inches when we do a 2.5 inch, right? Look at that. Like, you could put a lot in there. Now we've got to do one more stitch for it to be completed, but you can see, you see why I put the flower up a little further? Because we needed to make room for the bottom, and I wasn't exactly sure, you know. Oh my gosh, that's so cute. Okay, so here's what we're gonna have to do now. Now we've got to turn it back inside out, and we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna stitch, we're gonna make sure that we poke all these corners out. See how pretty that is? Look at that, it's just so clean. This is why I love French seams. I mean, you would whip this up a lot quicker if you were doing this by yourself, and like we're talking and I've had to rethread things and change thread and unpick. Isn't that lovely? It just looks like you've, like, this is like professional, right? It's really nice. Yeah, so now, so we got all that poked out. Now I'm gonna take this to the pressing station. I'm gonna press this down again really flat, okay? Stick-ons like Madonna. Oh, the tassels. Okay, let's go over to the pressing station here and let's press these really flat here. And this down. I want to make sure this seam is down. Now this is going to be a lot to sew over again, y'all. I'm a little nervous. But I've got my TL as a backup if I have to. And I'm gonna definitely start up here and go this way, because if I started up here, it would wanna pull that seam over, and we definitely don't want that. But when these have gotten, I've made a couple that have been pretty thick, the steam and pressing these down definitely does help make them flatter to do that. So I just kind of roll that over there, just give it a good steam and a good press. Make it as flat as we can. Okay, I'm gonna do that on this other side too. I'm gonna go ahead and clip these down while it's hot. Whoops. Clip that down while it's hot. Okay, and then flip it over here, and let's do the same thing with this one. Make sure all that's the way we want it. And then we'll give this a good press. Same thing, I'm going to stitch from this direction all the way down, hopefully to get over that hump.
Brenda says you need a hump jumper and a heavy wood clapper.
Well, I've got the heavy wood clapper right here. I could do that. The hump jumper, is that foot, Brenda, that I had on? Is this called the hump jumper? I've never heard it called that, but this is the one where it's got the spring and it will like go over things, kind of like a Tonka truck. Is this the one you're talking about? I've never heard it called that, if that's what it is. But if that's a special foot I need to get, I may have to invest in one. All right, we'll just set that on there, y'all. Did I tell you about this clapper? So I have this one for seams. I was at teaching at Guilds a few weeks ago. Well, it was like last month, I guess. And one of the ladies there, oh yeah, I think that did help, Brenda. I think it did. We'll just do that again on the other side. Her husband apparently makes these only for Guild members. And I saw hers, I was like, oh, Modern American Vintage, my friend Chris makes these, but I haven't wanted to splurge on it. They're beautiful. And so she pulls hers out. She's like, I'll sell it to you for $25. I was like, oh my goodness, $25? She's like, yeah. So yeah, I came home with hers. Isn't that nice? So I just put some stickers on it.
Brenda said it's not a foot, it's a piece of plastic that you put under the foot to level it for about $4 on Amazon.
Really, Brenda? Okay, I'm gonna have to check that out. A hump jumper. Never heard of it. see what I can learn from you guys. Can y'all tell I'm really trying to ensure that there's no problem when I sew over these in a minute? Okay, let's go do it. This is the last part, y'all, and then we'll have it done, and you'll know how to do it. Of course, you'll probably do it in a lot fraction of the time because good on battery. Okay, good. Got 26% battery, y'all. We're gonna finish this. We started at 2:30.
Yeah, we're good.
Wow, 3 hours. Okay, we're good, y'all. We're gonna make it. Okay, so I'm just gonna make sure I'm going this direction here. Make sure everything's out of the way and I don't accidentally sew something I'm not supposed to. Okay, and then I gotta make sure that I don't get I get too close. You don't wanna get too close. So again, it's about 1/2 inch. So that we don't have any of those seams showing. Okay, here we go. Here we go, y'all. It says no, no, Belle, no, no. It doesn't want to do it. I may go over to my Juki, y'all, and do it over there, my semi-industrial one. Of course, I don't have in cream thread. Yeah, I think I'm gonna do that. This makes me scared. It's a little bit scary. We'll try one more time. If not, I'm gonna go over there. I don't really want to break a needle. But I won't be able to, we don't have a camera view on that one.
Try to move this one.
You want to? Okay, yeah. Cool, I was just gonna move the camera over to my other Juki. Let's see, it's working. Nope, dang it. Okay. That's like a protection. If y'all could see my screen on my sewing machine, it kind of like does this safety thing where it won't do anything else whenever I do that. Okay, I'm gonna go over to, you guys are gonna get to see me use my other one because this is just too thick. Too thick. Well, I've got to rethread it anyway, so. He's gonna move the camera from the baby lock, y'all, over to my Juki, and we'll get that set up. And y'all can watch me use this other machine that you don't normally get to see me use. So that's what I'm gonna do. We're just gonna move over here. I'll let y'all see what we're doing over here. And I'm gonna put in, I'm gonna use this cream thread. That'll work. Okay, let's see what the view looks like. Hey y'all. Okay, meet my Juki TL 2020 Platinum Edition, y'all. This is it right here. No problem. Quilt Husband was we've talked about this, like, can we move the camera during the middle of the show? Because I've got so many different, views of stuff. Now that might be, we'll have to see because this bag is pretty thick. I'm gonna have to take off. This was that 12 weight thread, y'all. This is the Orfil 12 weight thread that I had, that I used for the flowers for part of it. And this machine right here, I can use 12 weight thread, no problem. No problem. I'm gonna try to do this without my walking foot, only to save time. But I'm gonna, Yeah, looks good. How's it look good? Does it look good to y'all? Oh, from my bag? Yeah, I think I've got enough room. I'm gonna turn the tablet around, and that way I can see what y'all are saying. All right, y'all, we tried something new. We literally moved one of the cameras during the middle of the show over to this machine. At some point, maybe at some point when I can start like actually making money off the channel, we'll get another camera over here, so this one will be ready to go whenever I need it. Sometimes it does with bags. Like this is just, you can't go wrong with bags. And I love my computerized Juki. That's a DX4000. But with big thick stuff like this machine just never leads me wrong. So right now I'm just threading it. I'm just putting in the cream color thread. And I don't know about y'all, but y'all that have the 2020, I never use my needle threader on this. It's kind of a little weird. So I always just manually put it through. I have a quilty friend that has the 2010, and she doesn't have any trouble with hers, but I don't know, just for me it's, so I end up doing it by hand. Okay, and I've got a jeans needle in here too because I was using that thick 12 weight thread. Okay, y'all, I want you to see the difference on how this works with this machine that's a semi-industrial with going over these big kind of humps. And I have a knee lift, so that's why I'm able to use both hands here. Man, that's a good view. I do all the time on my 2020. Okay, Brenda, your needle threader stinks too? Yeah, I should just like watch a tutorial on it. But I don't know, it's a little different. Okay, here we go. So I'm giving it a little push, but look at that. It just goes right over it, y'all. I mean, it's a workhorse for sure. So I'm gonna make sure. There we go, no problem. Had to give it just a little teeny push, but didn't break a needle, nothing. Stitched right through it. Look at that. Boom. Okay, let's do the other side. And for the other side, I'm actually going to go this direction because I don't want to sew the opposite direction of that seam so that doesn't pop up. So I'm just going to make sure this bag is laid out correctly. There's no bumps and lumps. This is that woven fabric, so I've got a little bit of stretch going on, but it's not too bad. Get this all straight where I want it. Make sure it stays straight. That seam under there. Whoops. Sorry, y'all. I bumped the camera. And here we go. We're going to sew right on over it without the walking foot. It just goes right over it. Y'all see how it's like butter? This is why I love this machine for like thick stuff. And vinyl, like when I've made little vinyl pouches, it's also good for that too. But I do use a vinyl foot. And we'll backstitch. Awesome. Yeah. I think, Jennifer, you were asking, right? Weren't you considering getting this machine? You can see, you probably were excited to see this. I mean, I will always keep this machine. I will never get rid of it. I mean, like when my other one needs to go in for service and stuff, you know, we'll do that. But I think y'all have seen what it looks like up close, pretty much. All right, let's go back to the overhead, y'all. Look at that. So here are your French seams. Isn't that nice, the way they're like finished? Now, the test is when we open it up and make sure that we didn't accidentally get too close and those frayed seams show through. Come on, Belle, did you do your job? I did, y'all. None are showing, none are showing. Okay, that's the check. So what happens is when you go back and look at your work, if you didn't sew far enough out, like about 1/2 inch approximately, then what you would be seeing is all the rough frayed edges from that first seam that you sewed. You would be seeing the batting and the green poking through on this side. We did it, y'all. Oh my goodness, look how cute this is. I really want to keep it. It's so darling. That's when you know you've made a good gift, when you really want to keep it. So you can see, this is how big the bottom is. She got a lot of room, doesn't she? Drum roll, da 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 da. Look at that. Y'all, I'm glad I did you see how that was when you have all one panel? That's the other nice thing about quilting. When you do the bag this way, your quilting all stays the same from one side to the other, and on the sides too, right? So if this had been, you know, one whole side and you've got a seam at the bottom and another whole side, you've got to try to line up that quilting, right? Or I guess you could have pieced the two pieces together. You still would have a seam on the bottom, but this way you don't have a seam on the bottom when you do it this way. Isn't that nice? Yeah. The other thing with totes, I don't use light colored fabric on the bottom of them usually anymore, if it's going to be one that I use a lot, just because when you set it down, you know, it can get dirty. So I tend not to use lighter color fabrics if I'm really going to use it. Okay, let's do this view, y'all. Oh, I'm so excited. This is darling. I'm really happy. This is my Aurifil project. I think it's I'm gonna take some good pictures of it, and I have to send all the information into them. There we go. Ta-da! A lot of room in there. That looks so nice, doesn't it? I know. Hold it up this way so y'all can see it like this. Now, all y'all can make the French seam totes. Now what I am gonna do though, I'm gonna go back over there and I'm gonna reinforce, let me do the overhead. I'm gonna reinforce this up here at the top, okay? Because that other machine, I really couldn't go back and forth a lot. I'm gonna go reinforce with my Juki right here. Let's go do that right now, because I want to make sure that that doesn't like come unsewn. So we're just going to do that. You'll see how easily this works. So note to self, when I do another tote that's got really thick batting, we may set the camera up for over here. So we'll put that down. I just got to get over that hump. Yeah, let's try that again. The fabric kind of wiggled. See, it kind of wiggled a little bit. You see what happened there? I needed to go from this direction down. So we're going to do a do-over. I'm going to cut that right there. And I'm going to go from the other direction and come down. I really should be using green thread, but it is what it is. So we need to get that lined back up there better. Undo that just a little bit, then I can move it back up. Okay, so I'm gonna come from this direction. We're gonna have to fold it back inside out to do this. And I'm gonna go from this direction down. I'm just gonna clip those and just do that over, y'all. Not happy with that. That's what I should have done to begin with. Use this machine. Okay, so now we're gonna get that lined back up. And I'm gonna go ahead and probably put a clip here just to keep it from wiggling. And I'm gonna start here and come down so that stays even there. Okay. Get this underneath here. There we go. Well, this one's not happy either. I'm going to start back further. There we go. There. Now it's more secure. I was afraid that other one, because I really couldn't do a lot of back and forth, was not going to be as secure. Clip those threads. Now that's better. So you can see, I mean, you can still see the white thread there. So it's a little tricky with the thickness of it. I mean, would I use thinner batting? I mean, when I've used thinner batting before, this is not nearly as tricky, but I would say if you don't have a semi-industrial machine, this will probably be kind of hard with this thick batting. So note to self, as you can see kind of how that went for me. Let's see, now on this one, I'm not going to have to undo that one. We're just going to kind of come and sew over it. We'll start down here. There we go. That's what I should have done the first time with the other one, is sewn from this direction down rather than this direction that way, because then it wants to pull this to where it would be uneven. So if you go back and reinforce these, start here and go down and back, rather than a while ago I wasn't thinking and I started here and went down, and it kind of, you know, made it where it wasn't quite as even. So now it's reinforced there. You can see how that's reinforced a lot better. All right. Okay. We did it, y'all. We did it. Now you've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly, what to be careful of, what to do and not do with it, but her little bag's all ready. She's ready to go. Isn't that fun? Note to self, trim the batting before steaming. Well, the thing is, the batting was already trimmed as far as it would go, Brenda. Like, it was trimmed a little less than 1/4 of an inch. But I would say to use probably thinner batting. This was the thickest of the batting. It was like what I had that was extra. But this is a little tricky. If you use really thick batting, this part is tricky up here at the top. So maybe those tips of just remembering not to start sewing this direction and down, but sew this direction and down will help keep those even, you know, here on the sides. If the thread color bothers you, I mean, you would have to stop here, change your thread to be green, and I think that would have been a lot, but I don't think she'll care. I told y'all I was a recovering perfectionist. So anyhow, y'all, you now know how to make a bag using the French seam method and the few little tips and tricks. And I think it just looks really professional that way. And this one has got a lot of space in the bottom, right? I think she's gonna love it too, especially these handles. I mean, the flower's darling and the Sashiko quilting, but these straps, it just says like summertime, right? Summertime and spring. So I think we'll probably drop it off at the doctor's office. We have to go up the day before surgery. So I'll probably just drop it off at the front desk and let it be a surprise for her. I'm not gonna hang out. I'll just leave it as a surprise and sneak out. And then my surgeon, he actually, you know, when you got your gown on and they've got all the IVs and they've given you the medicine so you're not nervous and all that, he always comes in and he's like, how are we? And this is what we're doing today. And he always says, now what's your name? You have to make sure that he's operating on the right patient, right? And so I've got, these are the ones I've made for him, the little surgical caps. And I've got, this is leftover fabric from the quilt I made him before. These are lassos. So I'm gonna make 2 of the black, and then this is the brown. These are horses, right? So I'm gonna work on those this afternoon. And so he'll get 5 surgical caps. Now I did pre-wash. I am not a pre-washer of fabric ever, unless it's flannel or like this, because you wanted it to shrink and be the size it needs to be like when you make it. So that's what I'm gonna work on this afternoon, y'all. now that we've accomplished this, so you have to go take some photos and send that to Aurifil. So it's our first challenge. I don't think they pick winners. Like, I don't think that works like where someone's picked. It's just your challenge for the month, and then everybody shares what their challenge is. So I was able to use 3 of the threads that they sent me. I'm pleased. All right, let's see here, y'all. What do we got going on in the chat? You know, Brenda, it does, the French seams do add so much structure to it. Like, the bag stands up because you've got like those big thick seams on the bottom and then on the sides. So, I mean, it stands up and gives it a lot of weight. I really, really love this method. It's just a little tricky. It's easy, but it's a little tricky, you see, with those thick stubbled over. If they picked a winner, I would win. As long as they didn't look closely, right, on what happened right there. Lucky nurse to receive it. No one will care about the thread. Yeah, thanks. Well, you know, whenever I went through my surgery in the fall, I had asked her her favorite color. And I didn't get time to make her something. I made him a quilt, my Dealing Diamonds quilt, out of all this cowboy fabric. And I got her a Stanley mug, like one of these, but it had nurse stuff all on it, and I gave her one of those. But I knew eventually I would probably make her something. Well, sure enough, I have to go back in and have a minor surgery. It's not nearly as invasive as the other one, and they found something didn't heal right, so we got to go fix it. So now I had time so that she actually gets one in her favorite color. So, all right, quilty friends. Well, thanks for hanging out with me on the French seam tote. And now you know how to do it. I can't wait to see all of yours. I'll be out for a week at least. So if you don't see me for about a week, you know why. And then I'll be back all ready to go again, and we'll make some more fun things, okay? All right, well, thanks for being with me, friends. Love for you to like and subscribe. If you haven't, share the video, tell your friends, all the things. And until next time, quilty friends, make lovely things. We'll see you next time, okay? Thanks for all the well wishes.